Okay, it's 19:04. I'll call the meeting to order. A quorum is present. The meeting is duly constituted, and the first order of business is adoption of the agenda in front of us. May I have a motion and a second? Adds, subtracts? Ron.
If we could add under reports, and it could be anyone from staff, to give an update on the water system efficiency upgrade project, and in particular the application.
That is the Green Infrastructure Fund thing. I think we see a report.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't we see a report on that anyway? We can flag it there if you want.
We see something else, but not that. Unless,
Okay, so which one is it that you're looking for update on?
well, I just asked it's the water system efficiency upgrade project application status.
What's the grant program?
ICIP.
Update, okay, fine. Anything else?
And I guess if staff could advise where we stand with booking Alison Habkirk.
Yes, that was a directive from this council. Okay, strat session. I just wanted to ask, the two reports that we see under council are letters that had been sent to Councillor McLaughlin alone from two bodies that are not bodies of council, Historical Society and Lions Bay Arts Society.
Mm-hmm.
Would they not be more properly in correspondence? In other words, what motions would arise from, these are information items.
You could go in correspondence.
I don't want to give any erroneous impression that it's council's business what these societies do.
I think we put them here because Councillor McLaughlin wanted to speak to the content, which basically involved recognition for certain things with respect to these community volunteer groups that are recipients of council municipal grants. And so they do have a status different than, your everyday run-of-the-mill group. But they could have been treated in either place. If you want to move them to correspondence, we can do that.
I'm only asking. I just don't want to set a precedent. I don't want people to believe that they can get on the agenda for anything other than correspondence unless they're a body of council, which means a council committee. So I'm fine with them there, but with that caveat, and we'll state that in the minutes when.
I think in the future I'd put them in correspondence because they came to me, which means they came to council, but they weren't really looking for a report. I mean,
and I believe the criterion it's got to be addressed to council. I certainly don't bring all the correspondence I receive alone to the agenda.
You keep all this stuff addressed to you yourself.
Well, you wouldn't want to see most of it.
Okay, so if that's fine, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's fine.
If I could also add under Council C, item 3, if we could put a new heading election.
Sorry, what do you?
And it's regarding Mayor Bird's not standing for election.
Okay, well, we can do it there, or we can do it under the report on appointing the chief election officer.
Why don't we put it here?
Fine. Okay, that's fine by me. It's fine. I'm just taking this on the nod until somebody raises an objection. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Peter? You got anything?
Yeah. I thought we might have a quick discussion regarding outdoor water use level.
Yeah, that's just come up. Where would that be?
8A7 is what I'm suggesting for that.
8A. Well, it would be 9 now.
No, that'd be staff report, staff verbal.
Yeah, but I've got a 7 and an 8 already. ICPIP update and strat session. So it'll be IX, outdoor water use level. This will be an information item only because it's not a council resolution. But I would like to discuss it.
And a couple of additional grounds for closing the meeting.
Okay.
91E.
E is what?
E is, in part, the acquisition of improvements if council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality.
Of what? Of improvements?
Yes.
Okay. So land, in other words?
There's, acquisition disposition.
Assets. Let's
Yeah.
just call it assets for now.
Well, improvements.
Okay,
is-
E and
92B, which is
92B.
negotiations with provincial bodies.
Okay. Provincial negotiations. Good. Anything else?
Not for me.
Yeah. Pam? No? Council? Okay, so on with those amendments, all in favour and opposed, that carries. So now we move to public participation. 2 minutes on any topic under the sun. Doug?
Talk about the weather, but I won't.
No. Who would like to hazard a guess whether this is a short, medium or long agenda?
I'm betting long, short.
I'm going for short as well. Not that I will make it so, but
I'm
I
going to do my
think
best.
I think this is all fairly cut and dried, so that's good. So we can talk about the weather if you
So
like.
thank you, Doug. Move on.
No delegations. So now we just want to approve the minutes of the meeting that we had on the 27th, right? 26th. That's in front of you. This was a fairly short meeting, although we did talk about 2 things. And we'll see more of this coming in this meeting. So can I have a motion to approve these minutes as they stand? Thanks. I had absolutely no changes.
There's no changes, are there?
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favour? And opposed? That carries. So those minutes are good. And then business arising.
I brought that up. Did you say I kept?
Yes. Okay. Fine. So that's on the agenda. So we'll defer it until we hit that piece in the agenda. And then the unfinished business. I don't believe anything here has changed.
No, other
Correct.
than 42 would be a report in this agenda.
Assuming that we go with the recommendation, we can take 42 off the list subsequently, but let's leave it on for now at this stage of the agenda.
48 and 51 are both addressed in the IRRs, if you want
Yeah.
to just deal with them there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and City of North Vancouver notice to withdraw from the bylaw registry. I have had some discussions with other members of the registry agreement, the other partners, and we'll be having further discussions with them this month.
Are we in some kind of behind the 8 ball here, or in some kind of trouble, or is this just business as usual?
I wouldn't call it business as usual. You know, one of the founding members and the partner that has been administering the adjudication function required has decided to withdraw and has given 6 months' notice for that.
So they're going to take it in-house and deal only with their own stuff? Is that the implication?
They are going to essentially just go back to issuing their own tickets.
Sorry, Peter, I didn't hear that. They're going to go back to what?
Issuing their own tickets,
Oh,
not under that bylaw notice enforcement.
So under an MTI?
Essentially. That's what I got out of my conversation with them. So
This was North Van City that used to
Mhm, yeah.
administer. Yeah.
still does for a little,
Yeah,
little
for-
bit longer, but
So,
So
any understanding whether somebody else is going to step up?
well, that's what they're looking at. West Van and District of North Van are both assessing the matter, and I'll be having discussions with them. I also put in a call to Squamish, but their head of bylaw is on leave at the moment, and the fire chief, who's filling in that function, wasn't really in a position to
Yeah.
discuss it. So
Yeah, and there may be complications because of different regional districts. Okay, well, anyway, so it's under work,
and I haven't talked about it.
and the deadline, the drop dead date is what again? Well, it's 6
Uh,
months from July 3rd, around July 3rd,
yeah,
right?
yeah, end of the year, I think, essentially.
Okay, so that's not
No.
forever.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so no res there. Let's move on to IRR, starting on page 11. Again, I don't propose that we talk about these in any unless something's changed. Somehow the font has gone back to the small font, but that can be remedied quite easily. And if we can have a practice where we bold or underline or color or something, change text so we don't have to look through everything. But I think we might be able to dispose of some of these now, so let's quickly whip through them. Starting with 155, I believe is as done as it's going to be. Correct?
Yeah.
So Shauna, that goes to just archive or whatever happens with it. There's another IRR to do with the signage in the water park, but do we want to deal with that one here? I guess my question is, okay, so there's all kinds of regulations. What are we doing about it?
I had hoped to get an email off to the party that had responded to staff earlier and inquire on a different kind of attack, so that we can, I want to explore whether or not we can avoid what is apparently quite an onerous process. The question is whether or not we have a choice on having to seek restrictions under their regulations, or whether we can in fact utilize our own signage to enforce our own bylaws, provided that we don't have signage that in any way, shape or form appears to be official Transport Canada signage. The problem is that if that is attached to a buoy, we're in a bit of a dilemma in that respect, because that then puts it in the sphere apparently of these regulations. Another nuance to that is that private buoy regulations do not apply to us as far as I can see, because we are a government agency, which it specifically is stated not to apply to. So kind of puts us in an uncertain position, so I still have to follow up with some.
And this is because it's an ocean, not a lake.
No, not necessarily, because under these regulations, which is about a 350-page document, mind you, a good 150 pages is in French, but there's about 150 or more pages.
Nice try.
There's about 150 or more pages of specific regulations that pertain to our kind of a situation, whether, in fact, there's one just up the coast, just by Porto, but most of them pertain to lakes. And there's several, like from the Okanagan, there's, and all over Ontario, of course, and whatnot, but there are little sections of lake where they've restricted boating for whatever reason, swimming.
Yeah,
or
swim beach or nothing else, yeah.
Yeah, so they are all over the place, and they would appear to be exactly what we would have to do, but I want to explore the potential option of us enforcing what we have the legitimate right to enforce, which is our zoning bylaw that says this surface of water is zoned such that no motorized vessels and no mooring other than emergency mooring is permitted in this zone. So,
well, that's the whole idea. But of
Yeah.
course, the fact that if we don't sign it doesn't give anybody a grandfather right to do it.
no, it's just a case of educating people to know that, hey, this is an area that is,
We actually want that to happen.
yeah.
We actually don't want people in there.
So the only other option would then be, if we can't do that, then the only other option would be to stick a big sign on the point of land, which is parkland, and have a
Like
big
anybody
arrow
would.
pointing to another sign at the other end of the park.
It'd have to be a pretty big sign to be seen from the water, and I don't think anybody would support that. Okay, well, yeah, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill, but I can see how they would, because it's navigable, they're going to want a pretty standard.
Yeah, I think we're going to get sucked into this process, which is an involved public consultation process.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, it may be that the answer is can't be done, and then that's the answer. But let's make sure that is the answer.
Yeah, no, I'm pursuing it, and I hope to report back next meeting.
Okay, well that one certainly needs to stay on the list. Yeah, again, that drive-through note was never an IRR. I think that 184 must just come out. This.
It's on our work plan.
Yeah, exactly. Just yeah. I see that 210 is going to be handled. That's good. 215. Okay, that's, you told me what the answer is, and I now know how we handle project tracking. The home ownership, there's two of these somehow that got doubled up on.
Did you want to delete 215, Carl?
Yeah, I think 215 can, not delete, but
Or
archive.
wherever it goes.
A handle in the dead IRR file. 215, yeah. 216. Okay, no demographic information available, so what about the other one, the home turnover report?
I don't remember the specifics of this. I know that
Well, I know we have a title database, and so it's going to be, all I'm trying to understand is what the turnover is, and if there's a trend. And all the other information that is available.
yeah, I would have to revisit this topic with Haley and determine what was involved with trying to achieve the result.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that the demographic information might have been, I'm sure we didn't gather it. So. Okay, so let's just, please, we'll do this sequentially, but jump in. So I'm now at 246, middle of the next page. Anybody had anything before that? No? So when are we looking at painting the box now?
Realistically, we've got the beach shower, we've got the CN parking lot. It's going to be a fair bit of time. Late fall.
Okay. Okay. I'm down at 260 now. Oh, no, sorry, 258. The pertinent question there, and I didn't ask it very well, was what is the internal procedure that we use to flag, to do sanity checking? Because clearly we had sanity checking in place for the beach shower. We looked at it and said, hang on a second, that's crazy. So how, is that just a judgment call?
The beach park wasn't really, we're spending $4,000 on a shower. The beach park was erroneous information that was provided in the council report that we had to correct. So we had provided a cost that we received from the manufacturer.
That was approved by council?
It turned out that that cost was incorrect.
Okay. Okay. So the answer is there isn't really any sanity check built into the process now, and I would suggest there needs to be, so that we don't end up with the $7,000 bus shelter light. It went through the process. It's council's responsibility, but I don't think anyone around this table knew that they were spending $8,000 to put a light in the bus shelter. 7,000, sorry.
But
So
just so that if we want to all end up on the same page. So in budget terms, when we're looking at supplementals and deciding what gets approved and what gets axed, and we've got an item on the supplementals that specifies what that item is and how much it's for, I'm not sure what more, you know, and especially when the item is so specific. You know, we're talking about electricity for the bus shelter.
Yeah,
And the cost was stated, so.
it wasn't broken down. I mean, unless I'm
Okay,
wrong.
but if there was any questions about
We
why
were
is
told
it
$40,000
that
for the bus
high?
shelter. That's all we knew.
About 26 plus, but you know, when the cost was there, I mean, if the query was like, oh, why is electricity, you know, all we want is you know, don't they just drop a line from the pole? You know, why is it that much? Then we could have had a further discussion about it. But you know, I think Mr. Jaffer can speak to the fact that this is normal. So it didn't jump out to him as something that was abnormal. If you want to have electricity that's capable of providing not only light, but you would ask for reader board functions and other functions associated with that shelter. So to have those things, that was a normal cost in his mind that he's used to seeing. So if council or any member of council sees that cost and goes, ooh, that seems high, why is it? Then that's how we would expect that to play out.
Well, I don't think we saw, anybody here saw a breakdown, do we? I did.
A breakdown of what though? As shelter, electricity. What's to break down?
The $40,000 cost. We were told the shelter is $40,000.
It was a line item on the supplementals.
Okay, so if it was, I didn't see that.
7,000.
And I should have noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have noticed that because that's obviously, the answer is, sorry,
I mean,
you
that's-
can't have that.
That's why I'm perplexed, is because it was there, and we could have had that discussion.
Yeah, no.
But, and we weren't knowing that we thought that was out of line. So I think that's why it got
Yeah, no, okay, fair enough.
written over.
I mean, I know, for example, Metro, when they put the 240 volt power in for the MAMU thing at the school,
Mhm.
that was $280. That's sort of what I had in my mind.
The difference is this has to be according
This was a
to
drop, this is a new drop, I know.
MMCD specs for public bus shelter transit.
Yeah, no, I would have run a new conduit, but that's because I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this was just a miss, because had I flagged $7,000 for electricity, forget it, no electricity. We'll do Home Depot $80 special, solar power.
And just to, on that point, sort of back to the 4,000, if we had said it was 7 and it had come in higher, we would have come back to council, as we
Yeah.
did with the shower.
As we
Because
did
we
with
had
the
a
shower.
council resolution to go ahead with the shower for 4,000.
Yeah, I know.
But the confusion was they told us it was Canadian dollars and we found out it was US. So we came back to council and said we do no longer recommend this shower, and then we built
Okay,
it
got it.
internally.
Okay, I'm satisfied. Well, I don't like the answer, but I'm satisfied as the procedure. So 258 can go as well. Coming. Okay. 260. Now, those cables are power cables, black and white power cables. And there's 2 poles, both with stuff wrapped around them. There's not 2 houses under construction there?
No, the one that Public Works staff looked at was the one that was providing power to 90. I didn't know there was a second pole.
Yeah, the next one on. Also got cables wrapped around it.
Okay,
And I believe, I stand to be corrected, that they're power cables, not short tellers. But this sounds legit, but can we just check that?
yeah.
Okay, let's leave that with me. Okay, I'm gonna let the final part of 261 slide, the current edition of the Public Works calendar. Okay. I seem to be the only one talking. What's that all about? If we go through resolutions on page 19 of the package.
19.
19 or 15?
Page 19 of the package. Unless anybody had anything before. No? No? On the item traffic delineator posts, how does that jive, and where do we stand on the resolution council made about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, on designing the lines around the municipal complex? You were going
That's
to
a
find a
di-
landscape architect.
Yeah, so that's a totally different matter than this.
But it just flagged. I
Okay.
just wanted to know what the answer was.
Okay, so I'd been in discussions with 2 architects, and I'm waiting for the second one to come back to me with some refinements on her proposal.
Beautiful.
So I expect to bring that to the next meeting.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, there's the real estate information one again that somehow got repeated. But that's not done as far as I'm concerned, because, okay, we don't have demographic information, but what about all the rest of it? We certainly have that.
Sorry, which number are you looking
It
at?
doesn't have a number.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I think once we move these, we should retain the numbers.
Yeah, these.
And I noticed most
Oh.
of these there's several columns that have no data in them, so I suggest we can drop those columns. Because if they're blank, what's the point anyway?
Yeah, I think the going to the larger size pushed the number
Yeah, it should have.
out of the column
There
here.
was no numbers, sorry.
Okay, Ron, you'll be pleased to see that the shower is imminent. Unfortunately, it's cold water.
It's cold water. That'll be just in time for the polar bear swim.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you're not cold enough, you can cold yourself down
Yeah,
somewhere.
we're done.
Well, no, I'm sure it'll be shut off because it will freeze.
There we go.
Drainage materials have been purchased. Finishing signage. Okay. The cul-de-sac signage, not required. Who says? The point is,
Where is that? What page?
the final, page 21, the final one on page 21.
So,
The final one in the RRs, in fact.
so what we have next to that though is staff to add tow company signage to cul-de-sacs on the website and also inquire whether towing. So yeah, I don't
Okay,
recommend
fine.
towing vehicles to Squamish, but
But the point is, if you are towed, I would hope that there's a little bit more information than a no parking sign.
yeah.
Okay. And I'd also like to, in fact, justify why you got towed away. It's not because we're whimsical and capricious. It's because it's a fire lane.
Wouldn't there be a ticket on the vehicle?
No, but I think the transgression is only, what is the transgression? Parking in a
No parking.
no parking. And this time, unfortunately, because we didn't like the cut of your jib, you got towed. But really, that is because they're in a fire lane or a cul-de-sac.
But when we discussed what signage we were going to use on the parking map, and we went over it
I missed it.
several times,
As I say here, I
we
missed it.
had this discussion though about making them all consistent, and the consistency decision was going to be that they were simply no parking.
Well, as you know, because I must have sent 6 emails unanswered, and I now understand why, about what is the exact wording. Is it fire lane? Is it tow zone? Is it whatever? And I know now that was because we didn't have that anymore. I missed that part. That was between these editions of the plan that I reviewed.
But we sat at this table and had that discussion as to which way we were going to go with it.
Okay, well, is council happy with that? Just no parking? Sometimes you get towed, sometimes you don't. That your violation is parked in a no parking, and you happen to get towed. And now we're going to tell you where your car is, because I see there's also a new tow sign in the school parking lot.
Well, I think it would be a good idea to have some signage to say where the person can go retrieve their car. There were some people parked in front of us this summer, and he's good to get his car out. Fire chief kind of needs his car to get out. So the cars were towed, and at first the people didn't have any idea where their car would be. So
Or that they were even towed,
yeah,
or as opposed to stolen.
already.
Yeah.
The cul-de-sac, the tow signs say, no unauthorized parking.
The tow
Vehicles.
company signs, yeah, I'm not really,
Correct.
don't really like those tow company signs because they're not us. But yeah, no unauthorized, yeah. It's about communication.
Oh, okay.
Who?
I'm just trying to understand who we're trying to protect. What the concern is.
Well,
Someone that wasn't supposed to park there is now feeling upset that they were towed?
They don't know why they were towed,
If
or they don't know where their car is.
Okay. If there's no signage, that's a different issue. It says no parking. That to me is
Yeah,
it's
each
black
of the
and white.
cul-de-sacs will have a sign that says, Payless Towing.
At least that's
Unauthorized
something.
vehicles will
I
be
mean,
towed.
you know, rather than be capricious, I would like to tell them why they got towed. They were in a fire lane.
It's not a fire lane though.
Should be.
The definition of a fire lane is an actual dedicated traffic lane
For what?
Fine.
for fire trucks.
Is there any such thing anywhere in BC?
Yeah,
Where?
Lots, all over.
it's a cul-de-sac, so it's a turning.
So you're saying our cul-de-sacs are not fire lanes?
No.
Should they not be? Fire chief?
No, they can't be because they're public access. Like a proper fire lane is you stay right out of it if you have a car.
Dedicated to fire, you get a ticket if you're driving in it or parked
really?
in it or.
Okay, well, that's again something I didn't understand. Okay, so that's a bigger problem that we're not going to solve today. Let's leave that one on. What's a resolution, right? It says here a resolution. I don't know what the resolution was.
To add tow company signage to the cul-de-sacs.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, great. Okay. Everybody good? Motion to receive? Second? All in favor? Opposed and carried. Let's move ahead. And that is, so you're jiggy with what we're going to be doing with all the RRs. Some are going to get retired, some are staying there. We've got some reports. It's good. Okay. That actually worked. Okay, we're moving on to staff reports, and we have 9, so let's move ahead. The first is this one. I'm wondering if we should propose to defer receiving this because I believe that we're receiving another report next meeting on the comparators.
No, I have some comparative information. I was under the impression council requested a report on how to keep council whole with the elimination of the tax allowance, which I addressed. When I subsequently saw your email, I did call around a bit to find out what some smaller municipalities were doing.
Okay, well, that's
But
nothing
this
we're
was
going to
be
receive
in
on
a-
table. That is going to have to be in a package in big bold letters so that people
Well,
can.
the answer is simple, nothing. Very
What's
few,
nothing?
most municipalities are waiting until the new council comes in. And we did discuss that. We had quite a discussion about this in the spring, which I think staff supported, that we felt it puts an unfair pressure on a new council to
No,
have to
that's-
immediately vote themselves a raise. So the decision was you'd like this council to make the decision and then me present a report saying what you would need to make you whole.
Yeah, no.
And that was my
So-
direction.
so-
We, not only do we know that, we don't need the raise because the municipal officers allowance still stands.
No, exactly. But I'm saying that I did contact Belcarra and Anmore because it's really, there's a big difference between larger municipalities and smaller, and they've made the decision to wait
Yeah,
for the new
but
council to make the decision.
I was looking for a much higher level salary report. What do other councils get paid?
I
Because
guess
that wasn't
the-
the direction I had received, so that's why
Okay, well,
addressed
that's
this
what I
report.
asked for.
I guess I would have to ask, why does it actually even matter what other people do? When really it's Lions Bay Council and the people who serve on Lions Bay Council. It really doesn't matter what Coquitlam does or Anmore or whoever. I think it's irrelevant, personally. I think that
You think it's irrelevant to Lions Bay what the mayor of Anmore gets paid?
I think that we're not talking about about rates of remuneration. We're talking about compensating for a change in tax law.
No.
That's all we're talking about.
No, what I asked for was a salary report, a compensation report.
That's
I
not
have
what
no
I heard
recollection of that. We
at
had
any
a
time.
discussion because you talked about
I
Metro and what
even
happened
listed
with
15
Metro.
questions. I asked for it about 4 or 5 months ago,
So
and I
don't
reminded
remember
you
that.
again 6 weeks ago.
Whenever
I said,
I've talked
please
about-
refer to the questions that I previously asked, including but not limited to compensation levels at comparable municipalities, whether in fact this council should be paid at all.
Because I recall us having a discussion at this table about whether or not you wanted to have a full-on discussion about remuneration, and everybody at this table seemed to be of the opinion that no, we don't want to talk about, we don't need to go down that road of increasing salaries. This is, y'all viewed it as a volunteer, essentially volunteer position for the municipality, and that
So how do
you
then
weren't
do you justify
interested.
me getting paid $14,000 a year? By that argument, should I not be paid nothing? Because frankly, I don't get out of bed for $14,000 a year. So what's the point of it?
But my recollection is the same. We ran around the table. Councillor Hughes was here at that time, and the decision was made that you did not want a review of the salaries. And then subsequent, the tax-free allowance came in, and we had a lot of discussion around that. We talked about Metro proposing something, and then you would want me to come back. We said that we'd do it in September, looking at what I would
Yeah, but
have
this
to
is-
give you to make you whole. Because we've actually really addressed the, a couple of years ago, we did the council remuneration bylaw where we decided that you'd get the CPI increase every year. And we've been following that for a couple of years.
Yeah, no, that's not what I was looking for at all. I mean, that's just boilerplate stuff. I mean, the only thing to discuss here is the marginal tax rate of 27.5% the right one?
And again, that was challenging because if it's a larger municipality where you get paid enough to live on and that's the only salary, it's very black and white. This is what the tax rate is. This is the impact of losing a third, having to pay tax on a third of your salary.
Well, I'm not going to ask
I-
anybody here what their marginal tax rate is, but
But
exactly,
sorry,
that's why.
Mayor, if I could finish, that was my challenge, because I can't make any assumptions about what people make. So I took the marginal tax rate on $50,000 a year.
tax rate of what?
The marginal tax rate on $50,000 a year.
Okay.
Because my instructions were very clear. It was to make you whole. You will see a decrease in your net pay if you have another source of income, because now you're paying tax on a third more of your income.
Okay, so, I mean, if everybody's okay with the 27.5% as this nominal marginal tax rate, as I said, it doesn't really matter. But what I had asked for was something else entirely.
I don't recall there being
Why?
a resolution to the effect that we were to bring a report covering, whether, for staff to make a recommendation with comparators of all the other municipalities that would be appropriate as to what's an appropriate remuneration for council and mayor. That I don't, if you can show me that resolution,
I don't think there
please.
was a resolution. All I know is I asked for that report.
So,
I mean, if you want a resolution in that respect, we can debate it now. But, well, let's do that. Do we care? I mean, the range is... So I'll just tell you, for example, Anmore is just upped his... the mayor's just upped his salary to 32, I think. I seem to remember. Belcarra is, I think, $18,000 a year. But none of these numbers are actually worth anything. I would suggest that in order to put our hands on our hearts and say that we're doing this as volunteers, I would suggest that the comp should be 0. Because, I acknowledgedly, 14,000 or 7,000 pays for, a trip to the Okanagan and back a few times a year. But that's about all. Do we care enough? Because, quite frankly, the salary is an insult. It doesn't even begin to compensate us for the time that we put in. So why bother? What was the original driver for it? You guys were here.
Well, I think the original driver was put on by Mayor Broughton years ago, and it was a contentious thing to bring in at the time. But the idea was just to compensate for expenses, and that was about it. It wasn't really a salary. In fact, I always find it funny. It's called a salary. It's more to me an honorarium, if anything.
I've often tried to call it that or a stipend. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Does the village really want to go down that? It was such a can of worms years ago with it. I kind of hate to open that argument again or discussion.
Nobody seems to object to it, but it's meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
The number. If it's an honorarium, well, okay. I don't feel very honored.
I would suggest that if you are thinking of going down that path, do you think then that is something a new council should decide? As opposed to this was just to keep them whole so that a new council coming in wouldn't have to vote themselves an increase right away. But if you're talking about eliminating a salary, then I would perhaps suggest that is something a new council should
Well, that's
discuss.
one option. The other option is to increase it. I would just like to know what's the recommendation. But that's a valid point. Maybe that's not something we're going to be able to... So I had hoped that we would hear today what other communities do that would be used as justification for our own move, whether that's to cut the salary or to set honorarium altogether, or double it, or whatever it. I don't know. Because as it stands today, it's kind of meaningless. It's just an arbitrary number. It's not calculating anything, other than perhaps expenses.
Well, I think now in particular, if you bring up the topic, as we're going into an election, it's just going to muddy the water
Yeah,
like crazy. I don't know if we
true.
really want to do that.
Well, I'm quite prepared to leave it at this report. But what does everybody else say?
I do agree with that.
Ron, you look like you're mulling.
All the points are valid. I think that it's not about who's sitting here or who might sit in the chairs next time. I mean, it might induce somebody to come forward. And I think when I asked Mayor Broughton why she had done this, she said that literally it was moms who needed babysitters and stuff like that to attend many council meetings. And I think the original councillor's salary was a whopping $5,000 and the mayor's was 10, and over seemingly decades, it's 2%ed itself up to whatever the number is.
I wish there were some former mayors in the room that might remind us what they might have been paid. Do they remember?
Well, if you really want me to speak to it, I will, because I was making a list of a couple of things I wanted to discuss.
Go ahead.
Mayors prior to, originally mayors were not compensated at all, nor were members of council. It was basically a public service. It in actual fact cost money to serve on council. Nobody was, I mean, maybe somebody claimed some expenses somewhere, but they would have had to have been extraordinary. Nobody would have been compensated for anything. Babysitting obviously would probably not be something that you could be compensated for. But, you know, travel, things of that nature, simply, first of all, they weren't done, generally speaking. And secondly, if they were, it was usually at your own choice. If you happened to go downtown to the big, you know, palace where everybody from all the municipalities go to, you weren't paid gas mileage to get there. So, from my perspective, just a couple things, then I'll be quiet. I think it's important to me that the outgoing council, even though some members after the next election may be on council, if they choose to run and be elected, should make the decision as to what the next council is paid. I think it's and that doesn't address the question of whether you should be paid nothing or you should be paid $32,000. Whatever is decided should be decided by the outgoing council. I think in fairness to the incoming council, the first task you don't want to be faced with is how much should we pay ourselves? Yeah. Secondly, if this council, for example, were to decide that the mayor should get $32,000 or $52,000 or $152,000, then I suspect that people knowing that before there's an election would then weight that as to those members of the existing council who voted for that might be standing for re-election, whether they wanted to elect those people. And I'm not mean that in a threatening way. I think it always bothered me that the council would have to decide on their own remuneration. And I thought that the most objective way of doing it was to have the outgoing council decide on that, because the people that aren't going to be there, it's of no consequence to them, they're not going to be there. And the people that are going to be there would have to rationalize their decision as to how much they were wanting to pay themselves should they be re-elected, and the populace would know ahead of time and could make their own decisions based on information.
Well, it's specifically because it comes up always at this time.
And I always thought that it was an honorarium. I wrote that word down before it was mentioned by anybody at that table. Now, I'm not suggesting that burden of work that's done today should be done for free necessarily, but I do think it is an honor to serve on council. But I don't think you should necessarily be out of pocket either. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, so I mean, you know, you will recall the hoo-ha from Metro voting themselves, a pension and a raise, and how they've skirted the issue is they're going to send it to a professional compensation consultant, and whatever the consultant says, I'll believe that when I see it. Anmore did the same. They commissioned a staff report. They ordered a staff report, and that's what the staff report said. I mean, maybe we don't rock the boat because it's too late. It's an impossible situation. I always wonder, why do we pay ourselves at all?
I think this is a philosophical one, and for the amount of work, particularly the amount of work that you put in, it's I wouldn't say it's an insult, but it's what was in the pipeline before. Quite frankly, the way Pam has put this, and we can debate about the 27.5, I mean, we're really moving a couple $100 around here.
Yes.
I mean, it's irrelevant. I think for the future council, the taxes for real, they're actually would make less money than we sitting here do.
Take home. Yeah.
Take home.
Yeah.
So just to make them whole, I'm prepared to go on this one, and I will vote yes.
Somewhat whole, yeah. I mean, depending on your marginal tax rate.
Yeah, I mean, we got 8 people here with 8 different tax rates, so.
the margins increase very quickly.
Yeah. So to that, Carl, I don't think Pam has to speak anymore. I mean, I was of interest what Anmore and Belcarra get paid. I knew that Bowen was under review. Don't know where they've gone with that. But I think for us, I'm fine with this as it is. I'd be ready to go.
Yeah, fine. I'll just make the point. You all read the press report. You know that so that the next lowest salary after those the four small municipalities is Port Moody. He makes 65, the mayor. But the point is, it's not compensating you for anything. So whether it's 14 or 18 doesn't really make any difference. So. Yeah. It's an honorarium. It's a stipend. Yeah. It's an expense coverage. That said, expecting your mayor or councillor to work full-time, and that's what the job entails, and somehow to be satisfied with less because it's a small municipality, doesn't make any sense either. I don't notice too many other professionals working for free or for, you know, a tenth what they should be making. I guess you don't run for council if you can't hack it. So, I mean, put it this way, it was no surprise to me the amount of work. I fully expected to work exactly this hard. But the fact that we're a small municipality and Vancouver is a big, I'd contend I work harder than Mayor Robertson, time-wise. He's got to go and see the Pope and stuff, you know, it takes time. Okay, so I'll take that as a motion.
Take it as a motion.
Thank you, that the recommendation is the council approve an increase in the mayor's annual salary in the amount of $1,318.50 effective January 1, and the council approve an increase in the council's salaries in the amount of $659.25, also effective January 1. Can I have a second? Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favour and opposed? That carries. So, thank you for that, Pam. Yeah, okay, we'll just leave it at that. I'll let somebody else worry about the logic of it all. And we'll move on to the liability coverage for Senior Social Circle. Before we consider this report, I wanted to ask, in respect of the later recommendation to reduce the fee schedule, in respect of each user of the
Yes.
hall, then using it to cover themselves for liability, why is it that these guys need to be separately treated?
This is a slightly different type of insurance. It's what we did with the events committee to cover them when they're off-site. And we identified these two groups of having, like, sometimes the seniors go on trips. And they also are more of a, not really a village-sponsored event, but it's part of our, grant we got for the sidewalk. We said we had a seniors group. And a seniors group is something that a lot of municipalities do have on their own. And we just felt for the type of coverage, this was better coverage. And that's why we made the same decision with the events committee. So,
And it's the same situation that we have with the, I can only think of home invasion, not home invasion.
House concert?
House concert, thank you. Yeah. Is it the same?
well, no, the house concerts are held here. So with all the other
But we had to
groups-
do a service agreement with them as well.
But that's
Oh, no, that was
completely
the
different.
partnership agreement.
Partnership
Because,
agreement.
Yeah, that's completely different, yeah.
Okay.
So we just identified this as the best type of insurance for the seniors.
Okay, got it.
And then we need a council resolution in order to purchase that insurance, and it's $250 a year. But then you're right, the later report addresses just doing the same, better insurance.
But that's more
with all the other
premises
groups.
insurance for
Yeah.
one-time use every time they use it.
But
Okay.
it's all general liability insurance. Sorry, you might want to be able to explain that better. There's a slight distinction between the type, and we had, sort of independent of the other, we had actually felt that the seniors would be better covered with this type of
Fine.
policy.
Okay, so everybody good with that? The distinction? Okay, so the recommendation is that the draft service provider agreement attached between the Village of Lions Bay and the Village of Lions Bay Seniors Social Circle be approved, and that the agreement be forwarded to the Seniors Social Circle for execution, and then forwarded to the MIA with the payment of the premium of $250. Do we need any further discussion? Can I have a motion and a second? All in favour? Opposed and carried? And then the update report to the strategic goals. Page 31. Can I, this is, the recommendation is to receive the report, is that right, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, I read this all with interest. I don't have any disputes with anything. Maybe a few questions only, but more just matters arising. But before we go there, can we have a motion to receive the report and a second? Now I'll ask for discussion. Anybody? I'll kick it off. The revised tender for the phase 1 of the Clean Water Wastewater Fund that's going out. I had somehow in my head understood that was why we had to do the special council meeting, but that was for the new grant, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's only what. So that's all on track.
We're in a holding pattern until the market cools down a little bit. I'm not sure what we had decided on the date that we wanted to put this out.
This month.
This
We
month?
just didn't want to put it out in the middle of August.
Okay. But
Yeah, but we went through an RFVOI process, and the result of that is that we are going to go back out to the market with the full tender on the revised project. So
that's more or less the 4 PRVs, right?
No, this is the Harvey tank.
Okay. Sorry. You see, I'm completely.
Yeah, so the Harvey
It's been
tank
too
will
long.
be going out this month,
Yeah. And the rest not.
and the rest not.
Okay.
We want to wait to see if we get the grant first, because we applied for a grant, which was
Separate
due
grant.
August
Yeah, that's the
29th,
ICFP.
separate grant. That application went in August 29th. We're waiting to hear for the 4 PVRs, but we already have the grant for the tank, and that tender is going out.
What do you want personal video
Yes,
recorders for?
Did I say?
It's-
I get in trouble for that so much.
Just
I
to
thought
correct, it's not 4, we're going for
Three.
the Bayview and the mountain control.
Yeah.
So not highway tank.
Okay. So the one question I did have there that I haven't. Will they all have flow metering on them?
Yes.
So we will have some, at least the start of zone
District,
metering.
yeah,
So we will at least be able to check leakage in some zones.
yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Because I'll just finish, sorry. I'm not convinced, given our consumptions, that we know all of our leakage. And we've deferred a leak down test for 2 years now. So, these things happen all the time. As you know, you just found a big one the other day.
Yeah, these are service leaks that we're listening for. We also listen to the main lines. We use geophones and acoustic information. The guys walk each and every kilometer of water main and listen for leaks.
I still contend that our consumption is too high for all normal. But yeah, sorry, Fred.
Oh, I just had a side question. So if we're only doing those 2 PRVs, the highway tank is gonna stay intact until after the Harvey tank is replaced. And then sometime later, if we get funding, we'll get a
PRV. Yeah,
Sorry, my fault.
That's such ancient technology. Why do you want?
yes.
Let me hit rewind and stuff.
The recommendation we received from our engineers regarding the dollar amount that we should go, the sweet spot, their terminology, didn't allow us to include the Harvey tank in.
The highway tank.
Highway tank, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. But council's aware of all of this. We debated this last time, so that's all good. Okay, fine. That's what I had there. Thank you for that. And the concept drawing board, the display board for the beach park thing, that's going to have to go through at least 1 or 2 internal rounds of review before it gets slapped up at the beach for Firefighter Day next Saturday. Surely. I mean, we've seen what's proposed. I mean, that's clearly not the full design report. Well, the commentary's just gone back and forth. But Ron, this is your baby, and so you're just gonna. You're the beach park committee chair.
Peter and I had a brief chat before, and this will come up later today.
Fine, okay, because we certainly can't just put that drawing on a board and hope for the best. But there's got to be explanatory text, and that's got to be checked. Okay. Okay. This target timeline column doesn't seem to be used much, so I suggest we dispense with it.
Yeah, I just didn't have a chance to go back and look to earlier versions of this document because there was another column as well that we had used, but I was thinking the same thing as I went through it as to why there wasn't more items filled in that. But I think that's something to be revisited at the next strat plan meeting.
Yeah, okay, well, fine.
So I wouldn't dispense with it. I think it's an important.
I had asked for an actual report on the courses that were taken. Not because I need it, because I think the public deserves to know how their money gets spent. But I see that a variety of courses were taken, which is good. That's good to know.
So where are you now? Which page?
I'm page 44 of the packet. But the one that I flagged was, so we budgeted, when did we budget for the new Public Works member and the planner to have started?
The planner, so Public Works was July 1st. We had originally had it earlier and then we amended the budget.
Yeah, I recall that.
And the planner,
That was April.
I was going to say was April 1st or May 1st.
Okay, so even in our tight budget, which was a 4.5% increase, tax increase, there's going to be a significant amount of money unused floating through to next year. But this is actually true surplus, right? We're never going to be able to pay these people that because we don't have them. But so, I mean, if anything comes through in this report, it's that we're out of time. So it would seem to me that the very primary thing that should be done is to recruit 2 more staff members that have been budgeted since March. So
just by way of update on that, Maya, do you want to?
Sure, yeah,
comment?
we've received 16 applications for the Public Works position. We've reviewed them. We've narrowed it down to 5 individuals for interview, and we hope to be interviewing within the next week and a half, 2 weeks.
okay, that's progress. That's good. When does that truck come?
Likely
And,
November, December.
Yeah, they said to allow 6 months. They were hoping to do it in 4, which is it was the same time with all the proponents.
Well, they have to
That's
double
the
up for a
standard
while
time.
anyway to be shown the ropes, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, that's good. That's fine. Same again. The records management project. How much was that budgeted for?
I think there was a rebudget of 17,000.
Reading between the lines on that report, nothing's happened. Is that correct?
We're having the maps digitized. I mean, that's what we're focusing
Rico
on
did
is
that?
getting the.
No. Rico did Public Works last year. This year, we have that entire trailer with all the old maps and documents that are going to be scanned in.
That are going to be, but have not yet. And will they be OCRable? In other words, you can do a text search and find something?
The Public Works drawings were. The amount of text on a drawing, pretty minimal, and it has to be vertical, it can't be on an angle, so.
And most of that would have been hand lettering, so kind of hard to recognize. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on, guys. I'm the only one talking. I really like being the only one talking, but
Keep going.
for the record, Mayor Burr winked when he said that. Okay, so there's a motion and a second motion on the table to receive this report. Any further discussion? Everybody good? Thanks, Peter. All in favour? And opposed? That carries. Lions-based style guide, page 47. Okay, this is obviously something near and dear to my heart, so I read this quite carefully. The report, that is. The on-table items, where are those? Thanks. We've all seen these, but just for the record, here I'll send these out. These were the public comments that were not. Some of these were not sent to council, but I thought to let that slide. They were sent to you, Ron. Is that right?
Yes.
The few.
I have no.
The commentary, such as it is, seems to have centered on the logo. The whole point of the project is that it was not a logo project, but that point seems to have been missed, unfortunately. And that is probably the fault of me, because the word mark, which was supposed to be the placeholder for a future logo, took too much prominence in the discussion. But be that as it may. So we had very little public commentary. I'll emphasize again, this has got nothing to do with the logo. This is to do with the style for community signage. And so in that respect, I just wanted to ask about some of these comments that are in the report. I understand that these comments came from,
Staff and one of our signage people,
what's the signage people?
people that we go to.
Commercial
for
sign
design
producer,
and production.
designer, yeah.
Okay, not paid. We didn't pay them for this
No.
input. Okay. Pity they didn't decide to bid, because some of these comments are excellent. But some miss the point. For example, I'm not going to go through more. Calibri is our municipal fund, so like it or not, that's what it is. I think we all recognise that it has its limitations.
But if I guess that I'd be interested to know whether Mr. Shore would have recommendations on something other than Calibri, because you might look to him for some advice.
Yeah, well, I mean, that'd be outside the scope of this project, obviously, but yeah.
I mean, was he told this has to be Calibri?
Yeah.
Or Ariel?
Yeah, it's a municipal fund.
We don't have.
It was in the brief. There was only one fund choice, and that was for the non-municipal one that's settled on Rockwell. Why? Because Rockwell's always been used for parks signage in both Canada and the US. But that was how that one was settled on, I believe. But for the rest, okay. So it's not a corporate logo; it's a municipal logo. But we're not talking about the damn logo. So the logo was supposed to be, and I have a solution which I'll mention in a second. As far as I know, none of the signs proposed are MUTCD required. They're trail name signs, they're interpretive signage.
As long as they're not traffic related. If
I
they're
don't believe, I stand to be corrected, because you've seen the document, it's this one. The very base plan for, the actual signs that would fit into the style guide once the style guide was decided. It's pictures of birds, for heaven's sake. I don't believe there's any traffic signage in here, but I stand to be corrected. This all came out of the RFP. I'm just glancing through. I'm pretty sure I can say that there are no traffic signs in here. Unless it's bridge name signs. But they would be...
Those are not traffic related.
Okay, fine. Okay, so be that all as it may, what I suppose I would suggest we do is, just to cut to the chase, absent the word mark discussion, which I'll have a solution for that I'll propose in a minute, how do we like the proposed style for the 7 kinds, 6 kinds of sign identified, which are historical, architectural, regulatory, temporary, recreational, blah, blah, blah.
In general, I think this is the right direction.
I mean, this is what you and I took the
to
first
hire
kick.
someone who knows what they're doing, to get something in the right direction. I think this is.
Yeah, I mean, mine was not very good, and nor was yours.
I think we got what we asked for.
Yeah. Now, the next step in this process would be to go through the text, the copy. And that's where I think a little bit of consultation will be required. Do we need all of these signs? Do people like the text? Most of it is replacement of existing interpretive signage. That's sort of the hiking groups, Ballywick and a variety of people. I've been talking to them. The backcountry trailhead signage, I've been talking to Lions Bay Search and Rescue, BC Mountain Club a lot. Do they like is the wording what they want to see? And the answer is yes, as a matter of fact.
Can we put a date to this recommendation? So
In terms of...
it's saying given an opportunity to provide feedback, but by when?
Okay, well, I'm going to propose...
Why don't we just put a deadline and say council has to provide feedback by the end of September or something?
it's going to need to be a lot quicker than that, because...
At whatever date,
Yeah.
otherwise it's not going to happen.
Well, so I'll have 2 recommendations around this, unless we want to discuss anything more in the report. Let me just see. Oh, I did want to ask. Scuba diving is allowed, is not prohibited?
Not that we're aware of.
I'm pretty sure it's prohibited at Calvin Grove Beach.
No, that's where
Why?
they do it.
Oh, no, sorry.
Lions Bay Beach?
Lions Bay Beach.
Why would it be prohibited?
Because there was a big hoo-ha about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, never seen anybody to the Kelvin Grove, yes. Central, no.
But is that a regulation, or does it
I
just
couldn't
happen that way?
find anything Is there, do you recall any?
Maybe it's an
Bylaw
interesting, I
something?
don't know.
In a bylaw,
I couldn't see anything in any bylaws.
Okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
I would suspect it's uninteresting because of the amount of sand we put on there.
Yeah.
But
How does that
Calvin Grove
relate
is
to
a
this?
well-known spot.
Yeah, Calvin, no, sorry, I had it backwards. What was that, Norm?
How does that relate to this?
There was a comment down here. Scuba diving is not presently prohibited. And maintenance is not presently paid for by parking fees. Well, it's certainly supported by parking fees. I mean, that was the whole intention, of course.
Earl, what are your recommendations?
Okay, so I have two. The first is that we dispense, because of the misunderstanding, and it's understandable misunderstanding, to do with the word mark, is that we in fact just use the logo there instead. So wherever we see that little, in the example, the word mark used, which is, despite some people's commentary, it does actually say the Village of Lions Bay. You see in my on-table report what other logos are. And I was interested to see the only people using lowercase was the City of North Van. I don't think that we are aspiring to be anything like the City of North Van and how they see themselves. You know, it's a far more sophisticated, shipyard area, come for dinner at one of our 15,000 restaurants, etc., etc. The rest all have their name in sentence case or in all caps. I also point out that the current logo, ours, doesn't actually say the Village of Lions Bay anywhere on it. So I would suggest that we instruct the designer to, instead of using a word mark, wherever it is in the layouts, to use our current logo, but to add an acceptable text, the Village of Lions Bay. I'll leave that up to them. Maybe top and bottom, maybe to the side, maybe, I don't know. Now, it's no secret, I really don't like this logo. I hate the pun on the word lions. I hate everything about it. But that's not the issue.
What's your second recommendation?
The second recommendation is, thank you for keeping me on track, is that instead of the feedback being provided to the CAO, that the feedback be provided to the mayor for consolidation and sent to the consultant. Simply in the interest of time. Why? Because it makes my blood run cold to hear end of September. We need this thing underway. Peter, you were going to find out, could we get this installed by contractors?
I think I addressed that in an email response, that we would need to know obviously content and quantity, and then we could put it out for quotes.
So you think we could bid it out to a contractor? I'm only thinking about time savings here. We've got a very short budget for this, so if we were to contract the installation, the actual digging of posts and sticking them in the ground, we'd have to,
Preference would be to put it out as a package.
yeah, that's what you said. Okay, got it. So I'll take that as a yes. So we will have to be quite careful. You're smiling, but it looks like in
In a
pain.
good way, I hope.
Well, it is municipal work, and I think Peter's email sort of explained it.
It's one-off work, like paving of a parking lot. Yeah, okay, I just want to know. I mean, it's no big secret. Okay. So we can talk about this.
So is the road end too. I mean, Kelvin Grove.
Yeah, there's
I
a
mean,
fulsome
that-
discussion in the
that's-
package.
That's village work too, if we choose to do that.
There's a
But
massive
road
discussion
system-
in the open package. Should we do this internally or should we do it externally?
It's different work. That's major construction, not routine maintenance.
This is major signage. Okay, so we're not going to debate that now. That's potentially
Let's
a topic
circle
for
back
class.
to your two recommendations.
Okay, so my recommendations are, once we know whether this can be done in time, that might change the scope of how many signs we produce in phase one. But the phase one signage is in this document, which we've seen multiple times, and which I will send round both to council and the community following hope for adoption of the style guide. I would suggest that any commentary, such as it is, comes to me, so that I can consolidate and send it on to the designer to come up with the final, ready-to-go style guide. Because I don't think this one is ready for prime time. I don't think we're ready to adopt this quite yet.
I'm ready to put the resolution forward here,
Okay.
because I've written notes down.
So, given that there are a number of comments which go to the style guide and some very prescient comments, things that the designer will need to take into consideration. Given that there may be additional comments from other councillors yet to be provided, I don't see how this council tonight can adopt the style guide. So
I
it's
agree.
going to have to come back to the September
next one.
18th meeting.
I agree, but in order to do that, we need to gather the comments so that the designer can amend the style guide
Yeah.
into version 2.
Yeah, I have no problem with them coming straight to you.
I mean,
I'd be-
I would take everything that doesn't have to do with the logo or content in here. I would, as I've already said, I think pretty good comments.
I'd like to be copied.
Oh, of course.
Great. But,
And I don't know how you would mount the thing without a bolt, for example, and that needs to be thought through.
well, it'd be expensive, I think was the comment.
Fred?
I think we're all close enough on this thing that I'd have no comments or to change anything, and I would, for efficiency's sake, I would prefer you and the contractor work out the fine details based on the information you're getting now.
So you're prepared to adopt the guide as it stands in principle?
In principle, yeah, with a few tweaks as necessary, but you're so close. I don't want to drag this thing out.
Okay, well, I don't believe we have any motion on the table yet, so if you'd like to make a motion in that respect, go ahead. We'll take that as a motion.
Didn't like my opportunity for a motion?
What was your alternative motion?
You think I'm bidding against it?
Well, do you want to second his? Because I think...
I'll second his since
Okay,
you've
fine.
chosen him.
So that's been seconded, and the motion is to go ahead, tweaks through the mayor and staff, and I like that because, quite frankly, time's of the essence here. What I would like to start doing is getting the final content. Okay, I'd actually like the content, that is, these guys, showing content for the tape,
Let's go down to the resolution again.
to be resolved next meeting.
Fine.
I think you're going to have to send that around again.
I agree.
And,
I've got a new version, but I've got the version that
11?
Okay, so just for
Yeah,
clarity,
right.
Sean,
document now. Okay, so it is go ahead. Is essentially the
what does the recorder think we're agreeing
proceed
to?
with the. So the recommendation is proceed on the style guide as it stands, with minor tweaks to be accommodated between staff, mayor, and designer.
Good.
Is that a fair statement of
Yep.
the motion? And the second?
Council feedback by Friday the 7th.
Yes, please. That would be good.
Good.
Okay, so there's
And-
the motion and second. Any further discussion on that guy? All in favor? And opposed, that carries.
Got that?
Okay, thank you, good. Great. So,
Thank you, Mayor Burr.
thank you guys. It may be hopeful, but I'd like to think we can get some of this stuff done. Nye, is there any suggestion that you would want to, you saw in the style guide that some of the interpretive signage mounts were sort of angled posts. Is it something we'd fabricate in-house?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming that's for interpretive signage.
Yeah, trail signage.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look into pipe bending galvanized signposts.
I think it would not actually, I think it would be a two-piece thing so that the straight one can be banged into the ground and then the angled piece gets put on, bolted or otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know about manufacturing that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
we can look into it.
We've got a budget of $15,000, of which $5,000 has been spent on the design.
Sounds
So
like outsourced to me.
No, we have a fabricator and a welder.
I thought I don't know. I heard that 3 times.
I don't know how he'd do it, but
okay,
it's not my area of expertise.
let's move on. This is now become an internal project. Thank you for that. And we will proceed to, where are we?
Marijuana.
The non-medical cannabis retail store license application policy number 1802 on page 65. Okay, we've read the reports, we've read the recommended policy. There's quite a few typos in this policy, so I don't think it's ready for adoption as is. We can go through them now, or we can agree in principle and authorize the CAO to go ahead once he and the mayor have worked on it, or, I mean, I have very few comments, Peter, it's anything.
I'd be fine with that.
The thing,
The thread of the legislation is clear enough to me.
Well, I mean, for example, I would like the purpose to be stated that the municipality and the public, rather than staff, elected officials have nothing to do with any implementation of policy. So I'd like the
Well,
policy to provide guidance.
Actually, when these things come up, they have to be sent to the municipality, and if a future council was to decide that they wanted to comment on something, then that would be a problem.
But they are the municipality.
That's why this policy is here, so that it provides guidance to staff and elected officials and the general public that, hey, when these things come up, our response is going to be what you see at the very last page. That's the response. There's no discussion at council about the merits of any particular application, because if you go down that road, then you will be sucked into a very involved public consultation process.
No, we will understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
then I would say that we don't say elected officials, we say council.
Okay.
Let's just whip through these quickly. I think you mean pieces of legislation? Or under this legislation?
Well, there's more than one piece of legislation.
Okay, so these pieces of legislation.
yeah.
Okay, so of is missing. Cannabis retail store licenses will not be approved in the face of opposition.
Mhm.
Is it approved or granted?
It's approved by the LCRB.
Okay, so the word should be approved, not granted.
Yeah, okay.
Under A, is the word should correct? Is it not would or will?
I think I copied this from their material.
Because they're still a little iffy on how they're going to do it. So, but I would prefer a stronger word than should. But maybe it is should. And then it would be without the local government's expressed support.
I say should because I think they're still.
Yeah,
looking
no,
through
that's
this.
what the
Yeah,
report
yeah,
says. They
yeah,
don't actually know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine. I can live with should.
Mhm.
Should it not be expressed support?
Yeah, sure, that's not how they term it. So.
Fine. Okay. It should be noted that if the local next line chooses to make comments or a comment. One of the two.
Any comments?
Yeah, fine. All the way over to page 69. Why is cannabis italicized and cannabis retail stores italicized? Is that as defined in the zoning bylaw?
Yeah.
Then
We don't have to italicize it here.
I think we should and say in there as defined, as defined.
Where would you say as defined?
And maybe after each one, cannabis brackets as defined, cannabis retail store as defined. So there's absolutely no equivocation.
Oh, you could say cannabis. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so those minor tweaks aside, so the deal here is that the recommendation is that we implement a policy that no application will be commented on which will effectively kill it. I believe that is our intention. That was our intention with the zoning bylaw, plus the amendment to the zoning bylaw that we made to accommodate retail as opposed to cultivation. Are we still of that opinion?
Yes.
No? So essentially this is the boilerplate. This authorizes the administration to send out the boilerplate that kills any cannabis retail application. The timing is pressing.
Yeah, they're moving on these, so.
Okay, then I think I'm ready to ask for a motion to the effect that the attached policy number 1802 as amended, non-medical cannabis retail store license applications be adopted, and staff provide a certified copy of the adopted policy number 1802 to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch. Is that a motion? Thank you. And a second? Any discussion? Further discussion, that is? All in favour? Opposed and carried. Good, thanks for that, Peter. That's good stuff. So now you feel that we are watertight in this regard.
I think so.
according to the Cannabis Regulation Branch.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd hear myself say those words. Okay. Award of contract for surfacing of new lot at 35 Kelvin Grove Way, page 75. The recommendation is that council approve the contract for the construction management of the servicing of Kelvin Grove Rem Lot 50 to Chris Engineering in the amount of 14,980. Can I have a motion? Seeing no motion, I'm afraid it's... there's a motion. And a second? Second? Thank you. Seconded. Any discussion?
I have several. So, needless to say, going from 70 grand to 100 and a much bigger number.
No, this is the first one. This is the motion is on the award of the management agreement to Chris, 14,000.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
We're going to
I'm
do
all
these
ready for
separately.
bear here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, we're going to do it separately.
Okay, fine. No, no comment.
So we just decided to apply 10% essentially to the lowest bid. Is there a fee?
Basically, that's what it is 10%. It depends on exactly how much time is required and how much stick handling through MOTI is required. That's the uncertain part. We have agreement in principle by MOTI, but we do require construction permits, which will require negotiation on flagging, on signage, on how long the access can be left open.
The design is done though, right?
Design is done.
Just
Yeah.
remind us what the
Just
infrastructure
construction,
is. It says the existing infrastructure out of the proposed lot boundary. Remind us what that was.
Currently, there is a drainage ditch, so a pipe outlet coming from Kelvin Grove into a ditch that's probably about 10, 12 feet deep.
Does it go through the lot?
No, it goes along the side of the lot. Actually, yes, through the proposed lot. And then it enters a culvert that takes it underneath the highway down.
That
So
drainage, there's no easement required for that drainage pipe?
there are easements in place for that drainage
No,
pipe?
I mean on the new lot.
No, because we're talking about moving
Are
it
you gonna
out
move it?
of
Got
the
it,
lot.
got it,
Correct.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the portion of work there that's required is to raise the elevation of the drainage so that it's only a 2-foot swale. So 2 manholes, section of pipe, inlet, outlet. There's a fire hydrant that extends into the lot, so that's pulling it back, cutting it off. There's provision of a water service at the top of the lot and provision of a storm and sanitary service at the bottom of the lot.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about that. Why? The intention is we're going to set this lot up to be fully serviced, ready for sale, because typically somebody building new would be responsible for their own power, water, and sewer. But we are
Correct.
choosing to make the lot fully serviced,
A service lot will garner more
more than it costs.
more in sale.
So we hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It also makes absolute sense to do it now while we're removing those utilities.
Yeah, that's good.
Cost wise, it's huge savings.
Okay, we're okay with this. I mean, it's all in the report. It's all very well laid out. So we are undertaking to do what would normally be a developer's task, to service their new lot.
The lots that were sold in West Vancouver from closed road ends were all serviced. So Public Works provided the services, the water, the sanitary sewer, prior to sale.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so Norm's point is...
Well, I'm just trying to
that
understand,
service-
what are we getting for 15 grand
what are we
that
getting for
Capilano Highway can't do? Why can't they manage their own project? Why do we need Creus involved?
We need quality control
They're
from
the-
our own engineer rather
So they
than
are our
contractor.
owner's rep.
Okay, their owner's
Yeah.
rep. And so this 14 grand is a fixed cost, or is that just an estimate and they're gonna bill us time and material?
Exactly an estimate, and they're gonna bill us time and
Right, okay,
material.
so this could turn into 45 grand. Or can we give them an
That's-
upset limit and
That's
say?
the maximum upset limit. They will not go beyond that amount.
Okay,
It
Because we will not yet approve a change in the underlying contract.
It depends solely upon the amount of work that's gonna be involved with MOTI. If that drops, then that will drop,
Will it drop?
yeah.
and will their invoicing be detailed enough that we know what we're getting?
Yes, we have full detail, labor hours,
Okay, 'cause
costs.
these are big labor rates.
Mhm.
They're not cheap, right?
No.
Okay,
Should it say up to?
sorry, I'm just,
No, this is what we need you for, because you've done this.
Yeah, up to a maximum of, yeah. Yeah.
So we need to amend this resolution that we've moved and seconded to say in the amount of up to.
Up to 14,980.
Correct.
Fine. Okay, I want to split these just for that reason, so
yeah.
we can know exactly. So we'll take that as a friendly amendment. Who moved and seconded? Oh, we don't note that. One of you moved it. So are you prepared to a friendly amendment to
For
say
the
up to 14,980?
1490, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, and my only other question was, there seems to still be a little bit of wiggle room for the province to come back and reclaim the land in the future.
That's the way the act is written, unless it is an adjacent property that is purchasing the land that's being created, or it can also be a situation where you're trading the land for another package. Those are both conditions or circumstances that are set out in the legislation. Then there is no right of resumption. Any other case, there's always a right of resumption. We had to apply for an order in council on the 52 Brunswick lot, and it took a while, but we got it. Our lawyers took care of that. Having seen what was involved, I thought I'd just ask up front, see if we can get it. I was surprised by the response, and I let her know that that was not my understanding. Talking about the Modi approving officer, and confirmed that with our lawyers. So, yeah, I expect that that will not stand for comment, and that we are free to sell it. But I will clarify that before, obviously.
And we will not start spending money until we know that? Or will we have to start spending money?
I think we need to get going on this.
Yeah, we do. So the problem is that there's a chance, small, that the province will say, sorry, we need a right of resumption on this, and you won't have clean title.
They always have a right of presumption, as I said, unless the circumstances are as stipulated in the legislation.
And
So
the circumstance includes selling the lot to a private buyer, fee simple.
if the purchaser is the adjacent lot, or someone that the municipality has decided to exchange land with,
Only then.
yeah, those
So
are the only
if
two
some third
circumstances.
party comes
where-
in from far away and buys the lot, and the province says, sorry, we need it back now, would that be a resumption or expropriation? And would they get their money back?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't get their money back. They take subject to the encumbrance on title. The chances of the province exercising their right of resumption are minuscule, as I understand it. Very rarely ever happens.
But it is on
that's-
title.
But it's on title, and that's exactly why we took the step of applying to have it cancelled on the other lot. So, and that's why we would take the step again to do that. But it's just probably going to take 3 months.
Got it. Okay. So that seems fairly cut and dried, I would say. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so the first motion is on the table, and it's to do with awarding the 10% fee contract to Chris Engineering. So are we ready for that question? Peter, are we ready? You look like you've got to.
For up to.
For up to, thank you, as a friendly amendment on that guy. So you got the amendment right, Sean? Yeah. All in favour on that one, and opposed, that carries. And now, the next recommendation is the council award the construction contract for the servicing of Calvin Grove Rem Lot 52 Capital Highway Services Company for 141,290. Now, I'll just remind us that we saw outside the purview of council public meeting commentary from an absent council member, which cannot be considered here because not been made available to the public. So I'm afraid that's null and void. That does not enter into discussion or even consideration here. If somebody else wanted to raise the same point, that would be fine. But we don't take that into consideration. Just FYI. So, Norm, did I understand you had some reservations on the price?
Nope.
No? For what it is, but I know.
I have several here.
Yep.
So on the basis that the resolution's frozen, we're in the discussion on this, and this is for staff, and I'll shoot them out and give you time to consider them while I make it to the end. So I'm looking at the page 76 of 202 and down at the bottom where it's preferred options. So I have three questions. The first one is that it refers to within an increased area of the lot, and I'm not sure how that happened because I thought it always was what it always was. And then there's some math involved with the more extensive upgrade of the lot. And if somebody could do the math for me where we spend 141 and the uptick is 250 and it comes to 94. Didn't see that. And so that's question number 1. And so that's 1A and B. And C on number 1 is that Peter could confirm that the appraisal that we got, that was a not serviced lot. And then my second question is that the works department period of time to do this would have been 5 weeks. Will that be the same period for these folks? And let's give them a bit more time and say, could we be ready to go to market on November 1st? And my third question is, could we not be in a position to solicit realtors now and list the lot showing what the changes are going to be, and it'll be ready on November the 1st?
Do you want me to address?
Yes, please, ma'am.
So, I'll remind council, we had an appraisal of the lot based on the value, the smaller lot size, and then if we do this work, the lot actually gets bigger. So then there's a higher appraised value. So there's a $250,000 difference in selling the lot as is and keeping everything where it is, and it's not part of the lot, or moving everything. So there's two things, there's a servicing, but there's also the work to move everything to make the lot bigger. That increases the value, $250,000. And if you take from that the cost of the $141,000 and the 14,
Okay.
that we're still ahead 94,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was just a reminder that we have two values on the lot. The existing size and a larger size if we do this work.
So then, theoretically, if the appraisal that council has seen showed it had a value of $1, it would now be
$250,001.
and $1.
Yes.
Okay.
Just interjecting, the road closure bylaw that we're going to consider later, this is the enlarged parcel?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And my other questions?
I would maybe defer to the public works manager for those answers.
So one was the time frame.
Time frame?
The time frame, the estimate of 5 weeks is the estimate from the contractors, plural, from the bids we received. That's their estimated time frame. I use that figure for public works. Dependent upon operational issues, creek blockage, tree down, that 5 weeks would likely extend if public works was to do the work internally.
So if we gave it a bit more until November the 1st, that's a little bit more than 5 weeks, so we should be in a position to go to market in 5 weeks, subject to some legal work.
Well, I would like to point out that I think what Mr. Jaffa was saying was that if Public Works was to do this work, we don't know what kind of potential things might happen that would pull them away from this work.
I was thinking if this contractor is accepted,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
then I'm presuming if our people could do it in 5 or 7 weeks, then
that's what the contractors
these
said,
people
5
will
weeks.
say they could
All
do
right,
it.
okay. That's
So
fine.
I'm looking for the double confirmation on
Right,
that.
yeah. Until
Okay.
the bylaws adopted and then sent to the lawyers for registration and raising of title at the land title office. There's a bit of a process to that. Shouldn't take too long, but 1 to 2 weeks is probably within reason. Then we actually have a title that we can deal with however we see fit. Yes, I had intended to have a real estate RFP out by now, so that is
Pending.
pending. And Yeah, I'm not sure whether that would be a November 1st or not, but I would,
Well, I guess the realtors would advise you whether, you know, this is what the lot will be versus give me the finished one to sell.
I think our experience from doing 52 leads me to believe that we're better off to, you know, when you go fresh with a listing, you know, that's when people are taking interest. That's, you know, first impressions count a lot. So if it's not quite ready to go and they have to use their imagination to figure it out, I think that's going to work to our detriment. So I think it would be better if we are done and we can say, ta-da,
Okay.
how much will you give us?
Done with amending the title or done with the infrastructure upgrades?
I think the infrastructure upgrades.
But
Both.
wouldn't the caveat on title or the potential for the government to pull the rug out from under the purchaser?
Oh, I think,
be
yeah, I
just
mean,
as heavy?
that's, we started off, with our listing, we still had that on title with 52.
Well, and it still hasn't sold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
that's
mean,
not because of
it's
that.
off. I mean, it came off within, you know, 2 to 3 months, however long it took. I'm not suggesting that we wait until that has been accomplished. I'm suggesting that we get the infrastructure works done so that if people come and take a look, they can see what it is they're buying.
You don't think looking at it on the plan will be adequate?
I think there's a lot to be said for impressions on
Under
site.
this freshly turned earth is 2 bodies and a new pipe. Except for the 2 bodies pipe. That was probably a joke in poor taste. Yeah, I mean, I take your point, but
Okay, well-
you're looking to get it done as soon as
Well, the
possible.
realtors are gonna tell Peter however they spin it, either give it to me now, I got a buyer ready, or not, so, fine. I'm good with the answers.
Okay.
I don't have any more questions, I'd be ready to go on this.
So now let me just ask about the fact. I mean, this is obviously right on the highway. Where does the sound wall run? Does it run up to this lot?
On
So-
the other
it's on
side of the off-ramp.
Other side of the off-ramp, the lower side of the off-ramp.
It's not on the lot side.
This runs right on the
It's on
hillside. And the
Yeah.
sound wall is just growing as it goes to the bridge.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm going is, as part of the infrastructure that we're providing for a service lot, would we not be wise or expected to provide an extension to the sound wall?
No, that would be on Modi lands and
That's what I mean.
The
you know,
buyer's
a-
buying
a-
it as is.
You know,
As is, you just told me it's better to provide a service lot.
okay, so yeah, service lot.
There's lots of water, but
But,
too noisy to live in.
In actual fact, one of the observations that was made when Mr. Jaffer and myself were on site with the Modi technician was that from the lot itself, especially the lower portions of the lot, the sound wall actually, it looked like the sound wall was going to provide a good deal of benefit to the lot, but you'd still actually be able to see right over top of it to the water. So it was, my thought was that this could actually work out quite well for somebody. And if you increase the height of the sound wall, then you would be potentially taking away that view.
Okay. I mean, there's levels of servicing that we're providing and not others. So okay, fine. That's good enough. I mean, I know that real estate agents seem to be very enthusiastic and confident that they're going to sell the thing for everything you hope for and more, until push comes to shove, and then it sits there.
This sounds like a fixer-upper.
It's a bare lot fixer up.
Yeah, and why would we spend double on that if we can get Public Works to do it for half? I mean, the goal is to get as much money out of this thing as possible.
Ixnay. They don't have time.
Well, 5 weeks is not that much time in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. I don't understand what the rush is. So I'm having a hard
Signs.
time with this.
Signs.
Let's-
Community building effort.
So an attempt was made to provide some indication of the consequences that would ensue if Public Works was to do the work. So there are costs to Public Works doing the work besides the straight material costs. There are opportunity costs, there are all kinds of things that will not get done if they do this work. And there's also timelines in terms of doing this work that are somewhat at risk.
It's a spread to catch a whale. What are we
So-
selling the thing for?
We don't know at this point.
We're in
We don't have an
So-
appraisal even, do we?
We do have an appraisal, but
No,
we're
not camera,
about
no.
to provide that number in public.
Oh, okay.
But it is a case, to your point of getting as much as possible, we're actually getting something out of nothing is another way to look at it. And we're trying to minimize the cost of getting something out of nothing, but there comes a point where we have to weigh the costs and the benefits of the different ways. And in our estimation, our recommendation is that we go with an external contractor to do this work, notwithstanding the extra cost, because of the consequences of having Public Works do it. And that's just our recommendation. Of course, you're free to comment as you wish.
Okay, well, I believe we don't. We're
For
not
me,
even.
it's rates. I can't see the rates balancing out. If you guys say it's 5 weeks and they say it's 5 weeks, but the rates, we know what your rates are. We also have a pretty good idea what their rates are. It doesn't add up to me.
I think part of it would be 5 weeks in total, but they couldn't spend just
That
5 weeks on that.
5 weeks
It's
might
like,
not
for
occur
example,
till
just even a
next
small
April.
thing, what if it snows? And then they're completely devoted to snow removal, that's just a small
Sure.
example.
What if they're putting
of
up-
what it
Blockage or
was.
whatever,
Sure.
it could
Yeah.
delay.
Yeah.
Putting up parking signs.
But you're delaying a
Because
lot
that's
that's
priority.
not, there's no urgency on this lot. There's no urgency to this work. Time is on our favor. So that we could piecemeal this thing and get it serviced over 3 months instead of 5 weeks. There's
What's
no
yeah?
rush.
That's.
I don't understand the rush.
So what's the nominal cost of doing it internally again? Remind us.
65,
65.
$70,000.
Yeah.
So $80,000 less than paying for it. But we all know that we don't really have that time. The beach shower is getting installed in the middle of September
What cost?
at a very low cost, but of
Not at a low cost if you're doubling the money on
yeah,
the lots.
but the point is it's of no use to us.
I think for this one, for me, not to say 77, let's call it 75 for round number differential, and it being done by November the 1st versus sometime, whatever.
January.
I mean, we're giving the market their own money back, the way I see it. I mean, yes, it's real cash, it really is, Norm, but I think having it done and the opportunity for it to go to sale and it coming back, and the bird in hand is a bigger deal. I don't know where the real estate market's going, but I think we should get it there quicker than later.
Do you? Even though we're talking about 2, 3, 4 months. Well, I just want to be realistic on Public Works time. We don't have that time. Everything I read in this package tells me that
We
we're out of
do,
time.
it's up to priority. It's what's council's priority.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so there's a recommendation, which we don't have a motion on the table, so I probably should do that. And the recommendation is to award this contract to an external contractor in the amount of 141. How is it that we saw such a wide disparity in the other two bids?
I think the low bid was hungry and is looking for work. The low bid is the prime contractor for Modi up and down the Sea to Sky corridor, and there's not a lot of work going on this corridor right now. The second bid is a very well-known contractor. I've had lots of experience with them in West Van on several projects. I believe they're not as hungry. The third contractor is very inexperienced in civil construction, hence the significant cost for that project. I don't believe Fontaine Construction has any civil construction experience.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as those three individual companies go, I've been nothing but quite impressed with Capilano's work on the highway. They just now did a resurfacing at Mount Stambert, I think. Start and finish in a day.
Yeah.
They took out 4 inches of asphalt. They're quite good, I think. And if they're hungry, so much better.
Well, is it really the same company? Because the highway is Miller Capilano, and this is just Capilano. Have they changed or something?
Capilano Highway Servicing is the parent company of Miller
That's the
Capilano.
top of that food chain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat the same guys, same trucks.
Not just the Sea to Sky, but they do everything Lower Mainland
It's the
wise.
same management.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will. I will ask for a motion on the recommendation, and then we can debate further if we wish, and or call the question. And that is that council award the construction contract for the servicing of Calvin. I've read this already. Was it moved and seconded? I don't think we ever.
No, not this one.
No. Okay, so just for the record, I will read the recommendation again. The council award the construction contract for the servicing of Calvin Grove Rem Lot 50 to Capelon Highway Services Company for $141,290. Can I have a motion on that recommendation? It's been moved. Second? It's been seconded. Further discussion? Great.
Even though I seconded it, I share Norm's concern about the high cost of this. And I also understand the consequences of having our staff do it, but I just think our staff can do it for so much less than what we do it. I just feel like, well, to the engineer's comment on page 130, halfway down, the current market conditions pricing is at a premium. So on one hand, I'm wondering, well, why are we doing this when the pricing is at a premium? But from Ron's point, better get it while we know where our value in the lot is, because there could be a correction in the real estate market, and we may not see the money that we're anticipating. So, to be quite frank, I'm kind of torn. I hate these big bucks. Every time we turn around, someone's slapping us with bills or bids. They're just through the roof. On the other hand, if we don't act quickly, we'll lose an opportunity. So.
Yeah, but it's more. It's an unknown opportunity. The spending is real. That we know we would have to spend extra. Would we need the owner's rep, the $14,000 from Creus, if we did it ourselves?
It would definitely not be as high as that. It would be much lower.
For me, and this will all be, I too appreciate the difference of the 75 grand, but I also look at a very big paragraph where, also embedded within our package, where council puts a strong thumb on our staff people and other things can't be accomplished. This is a pretty big financial piece for us, and I'd be much happier to have it up for market by Christmas time, and the opportunity for something in the north of the 7-figure range coming back to us, because that certainly feeds a lot of things, and that's it for me.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm less worried about catching the market wave to sell the lot, but I am concerned about a finite timeline, which we can accomplish by paying. Is it $80,000 more than the internal cost? Is a nominal cost, of course, right, Pam? It's not actual cash, but it's opportunity cost, so it's as good as cash. So it's a difficult one, and I take your points, but I will support the motion.
I will support the motion as well.
So are we ready for that question? It's going to be an interesting vote.
quite frankly, I'm 60-40 in favor of going for it, but my comfort level is not high on this one.
Well, sometimes you're making decisions with incomplete information based on even gut. That's what you do in business all the time.
If I can have the second to last word, and I say to Councillor Bain, and he and I would know this because within our 7 years of term, I count one of my major things is getting the Calvin Grove washroom done after only 3 years. And after only 4 months, we don't have a beach shower. We haven't even talked about some of the other stuff. So there's not a slur to staff, but if we really can't do the small things, why are we worried about the big things when
This
we've got
is an
the...
exciting project.
Well,
And I think there's a lot of momentum and motivation behind getting big projects like this done. That'd be a big win for Public Works to show that they can do something like this and save the village 80 grand or 75 grand. So for that reason alone.
but then Norm, you're going to have to, Nye's going to have to come back to you for next meeting and say, these are the 18 things I'm dropping. Because I'm going to
delaying.
Because I'm going to ask.
Delaying.
Because I'm going to start to ask working on the 19th on it.
Okay.
And seeing as no delays are allowed.
And I don't think he's going to like to give me that list.
Yeah, even less me.
So, that was my final word on
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I think these are very well made points. Unfortunately, that's often the case around this table. So, are we ready for the question? Because I'm going to call it. Ready? Last chance? Okay, all in favor? And opposed? Okay, that carries. So, Councillor Barmeyer opposed? Yeah, that's... Okay, that's how the cookie crumbles. All good points. Then the final piece of that is that Council authorised the Mayor and CEO to execute these contracts in substantially the same form as attached to this Council report, and any associated documents pertaining to the fulfilment of contracts. Can I have a motion? Second, any discussion on that one? All in favour, opposed and carried. Now the three ads, the ICIP update. You want to whack, who's going to take that one?
Where we left this, which was bottom of page 9 of 2002 that we reported out on this, there is an application that was going to go out.
I think we heard that it went
That's
out at the end of
So the
August.
application was due August 29th.
It happened?
Ryan and I, yes, had it submitted.
What was the amount?
I didn't bring that exactly with me. The cost came in just over 700, so the grant portion would be about 550.
This was
And we're-
50%, 66% funded?
Yeah, it was 26.66% funded by us through debt financing. If we're successful, that we would go for the spring borrowing. We're hopeful, as you say, they feel it was, what's the word,
Sweet spot.
Yeah.
no, not the sweet spot.
Oversubscribed?
That's it, that's
Yeah,
right.
but everything is
They
these
think it's
days.
gonna be oversubscribed, it's just $43 million, but I think we had a bit of an advantage with we were told with Build Canada because our request was a lower request. And this request being in 500,000, they feel that is a bit of a sweet spot, that they could kind of award some of the smaller ones, the low-hanging fruit, and then the ones who are going for multi-million-dollar projects, they'll have to.
And this is
wrestle it
as a
out.
result of advice from, who's it again?
Urban Systems,
Yeah.
the company that's doing our asset management plan. And they actually, we paid them to write the grant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
With input from us. So I think that gives us an advantage to having a professional grant writer.
Okay,
So we're hopeful. We'll hear in 1 to 2 months.
I would hope, yeah.
1 or 2 months?
I think so. They haven't actually said, but we're hopeful
Okay.
it'll be 1 to 2
Fall,
months.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
fall.
is that, is it administered by the province or the feds?
It's a combination again, but I believe we submitted it to.
We submitted to the province.
To the province, because the other provinces have already sort of done their second phase, so we will hear from the province.
Yeah, have they ever? Okay, thanks. Anything else? Questions? A motion to receive that report, and second, that carries. Sorry, all in favour and opposed, that carries. You got that adequately there, John? Thank you. Strat session. Ron, you called this one?
Peter, you're going to contact Allison?
Yeah, I've sent a couple of emails, but I haven't heard back from her, so I intend to follow up with that
Okay.
this week.
Thank you.
Do you have a potential date?
Yeah, I think that's going to depend on her availability.
Yeah, somewhat. I'd also remind you that the LGMA Newcastle University is second week in January, right?
It seems right.
So that has to be harmonised,
Yeah.
obviously. And that's a 3-day or a 4-day affair?
Couple days.
3 days, is it? Yeah. And vital, I would say. So the new council certainly has to go to that one. Okay, so just bear that in mind when you're calendarising, Peter. Okay, all good on that. I'm not even going to ask for a motion to receive that report. And then outdoor water use level discussion. We've seen some correspondence. We will put it on tables subsequently so that it goes into the record so that people know what we're talking about. Essentially, staff is recommending that we go to level 2 tomorrow because, can I just borrow this graph? It's taking longer and longer to fill the tank. And that's on the Harvey side, right? Mag is still fine.
Mag is still producing its normal 212, 215.
Harvey supplies 74% of the village. How long is how many minutes a day out of the full 6 or however many minutes there are in a day are we filling now on Harvey side?
Right now it takes 4.5 to 5 hours to fill 0.4 meters of the tank,
Because that's the set
the
rate.
drawdown.
So the set point is somewhere, rough numbers, around 92% full,
95%.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And to fill up from 95 to 100 takes 5 hours.
Correct.
5 hours is, in round numbers, a fifth of a day. So we've got 4/5 of the creek still to play with.
Usually we fill 6 or 7 cycles in a day.
But now the cycles have less water in them. So if you look at the end of this graph now, you can see that it's running a lot.
That's, I mean, if you imagine a pipe opening, we're now drawing the full pipe.
The pipe is not full.
The pipe is not full,
Yeah.
correct.
The pipe is full here. That's why the line is flat.
Yeah, and it was also, even though the supply-demand ratio was down in June, the pipe was still full and we were still able to draw much more water at that time.
Presumably because the demand was higher, not the supply was lower.
Correct.
Okay, well, I mean, the reason that I'm reluctant to do this is because, A, we don't have means to enforce level 2. I'm wondering if council feels that asking nicely might have a better effect, or if we do both, ask nicely and go to level 2. I mean, the requirements for level 2 are, I wouldn't say they're draconian, but they are severe. You get to water your lawn once a week. No outdoor use, no car washing, no driveway washing. Oh, Fred, just remind us what level 2 says, the salient points.
Yeah, as you're saying, your lawns are 1 day a week, even number on Monday, odd number Thursdays. Flowers, vegetables, planters, only by hand using spring-loaded nozzles. Sprinklers or drip irrigation, sprinklers and soaker hoses prohibited. Use of pools, spas, ponds, no restrictions, must have a recirculation pump one time through uses are prohibited. Washing outdoor impermeable surfaces such as driveways, buildings, sidewalks, and roads, including pressure washing, only for health and safety purposes to prepare a surface for painting or similar. Washing vehicles and boats, only by bucket. Flushing boat engines, no restriction. Filling outdoor water storage, no restriction. And the rest of it is public uses and stuff.
Based on the trends, staff believe that we will be up to 8 hours of fill by the weekend. If we do not
And no rain in sight.
Yeah,
No,
no.
it's raining on Friday.
I'm going to have to recuse myself. I've just realised I have people starting painting tomorrow, and first is 2 days of pressure washing. So I'm going to absent myself from this discussion.
But
It's allowed.
level 2, that's allowed
It's allowed,
for painting.
for
but
that purpose.
it is allowed for that purpose.
So it should.
Can I just see that quickly?
Just for all, it's supposed to be raining on, starting on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and probably Monday as well too. I don't know whether that feeds into the deal or not.
It does, we looked. We're hoping to get about 20 millimeters of rain, but we will have dropped sufficiently to still warrant the level 2. If the level changes and if it rains more, the North Van says Saturday, Sunday, Monday rain. Squamish says rain for a whole week, up to 100 mil. So
I told them they left painting my house too late.
if the creek levels increase to over 350 gallons per minute and stabilizes, then we'll remove the restrictions.
It's got to be
That's what
stable
it's
though.
there.
We can't be on and off, as you
Correct.
very well know. But
Our primary concern right now is firefighting reserve. It won't take long to drain that tank.
no, and then there's no more where that came from.
Well, a question, I recall there's 2 different size pipes going into Magnesia, and
Correct.
you usually running the smaller pipe.
Yeah,
Going to the larger pipe and back feeding into Harvey, would that not offset?
no, it's the same amount of water. There's no more water in the creek to draw.
The 2-inch pipe is not even full.
It's 4-inch and 6-inch.
A 4-inch.
Yeah, so the difference is nominal.
And it's not
And
the
it's
pipe
not-
from the top. It's just internal.
Yeah,
It's simply because of different valves. So the pipe from the top is an 8-inch pipe
correct.
from
Intake.
the mag intake.
Yeah.
But even the 4-inch down at the plant, it's not full.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's. So your recommendation is you've got to do it.
Well, yeah, operationally, we believe we need to do it.
Okay. This is not a council resolution. This is your call. This is just an information report. Okay. Thank you. Motion to receive. and a second. All in favour, opposed and carried. Thanks for that. Was that it for staff reports? That's all I had on in my scruffy handwriting here.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, Mayor has no reports, other than I wanted to ask, I guess it's up, I have not signed up for UBCM yet, but I should just do that, right? Unfortunately, my wife neglected to look at her calendar and decided to absent herself in Toronto and London the same week. So I'm going to be driving back and forth to Whistler quite a lot, sometimes twice a day.
I thought that you'd already signed up.
No, I haven't signed up, but I'm not staying now, so it doesn't really matter. They'll take my $250 for a badge, no problem.
I think there was a cutoff.
I think you missed the cutoff.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hang on. Maybe the cutoff is September 7th? We'll check.
Okay, well, I haven't signed up, but that's nobody's fault.
Check.
I'll also
You've
check.
got the materials in your basket, but they send them to everyone whether you're going or not. So it might be in that. Yeah.
Well, then I'll just gate crash. The problem is I have to be on the floor because I have to support our resolution. That we went to the trouble of going to the Lower Mainland LGNA to get on the docket. It's on the docket. We're meeting with Paddy Heinzman and I are meeting with the Ministers of Transport, Solicitor General, and that's it, on the Tuesday. And we're going to say this resolution is going to pass. That seems to be the thing. When's it going to happen? The problem is they're most likely going to put it on the Malahat, but that's also fine because it will prove that it works, and then it should be a matter of time. Okay, fine. So that's all I had there. So much for my not reporting anything. Council, we decided to keep these two here, Ron. So over to you.
Okay, and I'll be quick on that. First one's from Tony Cox, who's announced his retirement or stepping down as chair of the Historical Society. I think everybody knows who they are. Whether they want to replace or consolidate the position, I don't know. I'm thinking, Carl, you could either drop Mr. Cox a note of appreciation for his years of service,
Certainly.
or surprise him with a sentence or two on the update on Friday.
I'll do both of those.
There you go, so thank you for that. The other one, which is the Lions Bay Arts, and this is some of the literature that they had for an event that they hosted. And the purpose of the event was it was a fundraiser to support diverse arts and culture in Lions Bay, with a focus on encouraging young emerging artists and children and youth within the village. So this is you get to do a cultural type thing, not the event per se, but have your family members participating in this without having to drive to Glen Eagles. I think that the key piece in this, and also speaking with their chairwoman, they are well on the way to becoming self-sufficient this year and potentially may not ask for a grant next year. And so, no response on that one. And the third one, if I can go, which was the topic I brought up, which was election. And I think this is Carl, you can sit back happily in your chair for a minute.
Uh-oh.
It's just like, usually we have drinks when we do roast, but it's not quite that, it's not that good. I'm sure I speak on behalf of council, and it's certainly been confirmed to me by many of the residents I've spoken to since you made your announcement in the update, that everyone is saddened that you're not going to be running a second term. And I know you gave it a lot of thought, but I think certainly, and I'm sure it's specifically from council standpoint, your energy and leadership and outstanding representation of the village to the outside for 4 years, while it's taken a great toll on you, has been nothing less but an outstanding effort. You will be missed, Mayor Burr. Thank you for your service on behalf of all of us.
It's very kind. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And as I think you may recall from me saying in one of my notes, it's not a thankless task, and it's worth it. So good luck to those of you that either have already put in your papers or intend to. and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. So thanks for that, Ron. It's very kind.
I think on behalf of staff, I could echo Councillor McLaughlin's comments and provide our thanks to you for all of your efforts and for your insights and hard work. And it's
Insights, huh? That's what you're calling it.
there have been a lot of interesting and
Now it's coming out.
and fun times. No, I've enjoyed it, and you know, as with most things that that you appreciate in life, there are going to be challenges, and there's no shortage of challenges in Lions Bay. That just makes the job fun, and you've been fun to work with. So.
Okay, well, thanks again. That's very kind. Much appreciated. Thank you. And likewise, I already said I'll do the cheers and thanks closer to the time. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Okay, so that's that for council. No committee reports. We haven't had some for some time. Fred, we have an infrastructure committee meeting in 2 weeks' time, right?
It's almost 3.
So you'll be calling for agenda items then.
Yeah.
Nye, you'll be in attendance. Peter.
I'm not sure the date, but possibly, yes.
It's the third Monday.
I think it's the
Probably.
23rd, if I'm not mistaken.
So I think that's right. Yeah.
24th.
Yeah. I would suggest, because it's the first meeting back, that it's going to be substantial. You're going to be there as a member. Great. Okay, and no emergency services report. So we'll now move on to resolutions. The first being there's no report on this one, Peter. So I'll just read this one out. Is that right? The recommendation is that Peter De Jong, CAO and Corporate Officer, be confirmed as the Chief Election Officer for the 2018 General Election, that the Chief Election Officer be authorised to enter into service agreements as may be necessary in respect of the election, and that Pamela Rook and Hayley Cook be appointed as Deputy Chief Election Officers for the 2018 General Election. That's the recommendation from staff. Would somebody care to move that? It's been moved. And second? It's been seconded. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All in favour? And opposed? That carries. And there's no report on the firefighters' day resolution either, so I will just read the recommendation that council approve the request from the fire chief to allow angle parking along Lions Bay Avenue and to allow relaxation in permit parking spaces. Not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure it means something good, so I'll let that go. During the 2018 firefighters incorrectly apostrophized day on Saturday, September 18th, 2018, from 2 to 11 at Lions Bay Beach Park, and we'll do this together. The council grants the approval of the establishment of the beer garden by the Lions Bay Fire Department between 2 and 11 on September 8th, 2018, and that council extend the hours of Lions Bay Beach Park until 12 midnight to allow for cleanup after the event. That's a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that one? It's been moved. And second, it's been multiply seconded, so I'll assume we're ready for the question. All in favour? Opposed? And carried. And now we come to bylaws. Peter's favourite thing. And the first is adoption of the Calvin Grove Road Closure Bylaw number 550 of 2018. That's on page 137. Peter, remind us, did we give 3 readings to this the first go around, or did we do it in 2 sessions? It doesn't matter, it's more just...
Dates, maybe.
Whether we did it all 3 the first time round, or did we do 2 and 1? Oh, no, we did 2 and 1 because we had to give an opportunity for
the minister had to say something. The dates are in there.
Speak to
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
the dates are in here.
Yeah.
The 3rd
Yeah.
and then the 17th.
That's right. I
right,
think
yeah.
that's where that question came from. So we have done that,
Yep.
and came back, and
We did that, and all the steps are basically laid out in the report with notations as to having completed them all, and thus putting us in a position, or putting council in a position to...
for adoption now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask for a motion that road closure bylaw number 550 of 2018 be adopted. We'll do this. We'll split this motion. So it's been moved and seconded. Yes, it's been seconded. Any discussion? There's a separate recommendation that we'll discuss separately, obviously. All in favour of the first motion? Thank you. And opposed? That carries. And then there's a second recommendation that staff continue to pursue cancellation of the Minister's right of resumption in accordance with provincial enactments. We've heard from staff already that the jeopardy is low. Is that a fair assessment to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll ask for a motion on that guy. It's been moved. And a second. I'll take that as a second. Yes, thank you, Ron. Any discussion on that one? Peter, anything you want to point out salient out of the report, which is very cut and dried, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's all there.
Yeah, it's all here. It's all here. And since it's all here, let's call the question. All in favour and opposed? That carries. Good stuff. Where are we?
Fees bylaw.
Fees bylaw. We've already alluded to this one, and this is in respect of a slight reduction to defray the cost of liability coverage. Another good report. I think it all makes. I can't presuppose. So I'll ask for a motion on the recommendation that fees bylaw number 497/2016, amendment bylaw number 551 of 2018. That's this one. Be introduced and be given first, second, and third reading. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Pam, anything you want to point out more for the record than anything?
I think it's just the objective is to obtain better insurance but keep it cost neutral. So at the end of the day, and we put it to the test with a few samples. Badminton came in and they found that the quote that they got for their insurance plus the new fee would be cost neutral. And so far, we had a birthday party come in as well, and again, we found that it was cost neutral. So we're not trying to get more fees, we're just trying to get better insurance and still allow people to have a reasonable price to rent the hall.
Yep. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I've got that question answered already. Okay, so we're ready. All in favour and opposed? That carries. Okay, thanks for that. That was very straightforward. And now we'll go to correspondence on page 169. Ron, do you want to whip us through these?
Thank you. We'll whip through this. Number one, which is the cannabis update. This is a Government of BC request. Given what we've done tonight, I would suggest we refer this to staff if they choose to make a response.
Well, I think, are we required to? It certainly would be responsible to.
No, I mean, what I've already done is have a back and forth correspondence with the LCRB, and so that all those issues are clarified and they're aware of where we stand. They're just waiting to receive our policy.
Okay, so this is not going to all it is going to all municipalities, but
Yeah.
they're not expecting a universal response.
There we go. G2, which is the Ecom radio program. This is a self-promotional letter.
I didn't see any action item here. Did anybody else?
So that's a no response on that one.
Okay.
G3, and get ready, Mayor Burr. This is the 2040 Land Use Designation Amendment request. And I defer to you on this one, Mayor Burr.
Well, there's not much to say here. This came before the board in June. Essentially, it's part of the regional growth strategy, which is sort of a regional district's OCP, more or less. You can look at it that way. And certain changes require board approval. This was one of them. And the letter is only for information, as far as I can work out.
Good, then no response, thank you. The G4 BC Ombudsman is their report. It's received, no response. G5, dear to our own hearts, the employer health tax, letters of support. Here we have some good examples from Williams Lake and Houston, which echo our sentiments, no response.
I like their logos.
Good. The UBCM reception invite. Mayor, this is for you to fish around in.
Well, I have asked about this multiple times, since we don't actually report our greenhouse gas emissions to anyone. And the answer from Metro is that they do it calculationally and in aggregate. And since the aggregate number complies with the target, they assume that all municipalities are compliant. When I asked them a straight question, does the highway count towards our emissions? Or put it this way, I've asked the straight question 4 years in a row, I've never got a straight answer. Okay. So, I don't know. However, I'm cognizant that we will have, at some point, hard greenhouse gas targets to meet, which is why the coming regulation on wood-burning appliances and all that stuff is actually quite important to Lions Bay. Just not yet.
Just not yet, thank you. The UBCM Green Communities Committee. No response. Thank you.
Oh, I'm going.
Thank you.
That's sooner I can get a ticket to the UBCM. But yeah. Okay.
There we go. The resident stuff, much more interesting bunch. So, the first one, which is resident beach parking, Megan's letter, and so on this one has been asked and answered, and thank you, Mayor Burr, for that.
Yeah, it's not a great answer, but that sort of is the
but
answer.
there's a theme here, so
Yeah.
there's a couple of things here. So the next one is Kelvin Grove Parking from Liz Bell. And this letter's been outstanding since mid-July, and her answer is the same answer as Megan's answer.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, you know, when the whole thing is up and running like it's supposed to, or as tweaked, and the tweaking is yet to come, a lot of these things will become moot, at least I hope so, because it'll all hang together. But right now, you can sort of park down Lions Bay Avenue if you wanted to, because that part hasn't been done yet. So there's a plan, and when it comes to fruition, I have high hopes.
Yes, so in terms of Liz, I'm sure as the summer winds down, maybe less important to her. So Carl, this is a jump ball. You could respond to her as you did to Megan shortly, or we can ask staff to respond.
Yeah, now did I?
I don't believe you talked to her, but
No, I will
it
respond
may
to her
have
because
got. I think this one got lost in the woodwork a
that's
little bit.
bad. Okay, that's
So and it's
Oh,
because
well.
it's July that it tweaks my attention.
yeah.
Okay, the other one, which was Mr. George and his altering his decal. I'm hold my nose and suggest no response in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the previous decals had Lions Bay in 5 times larger font. Of
Yeah,
course,
so
couldn't read it.
there we go. He did some shaving on
Yeah,
his
you
decal.
guys are okay with that, right?
He's just he's taken off the Lions Bay thing on this thing.
Other people were probably with him.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm not.
The
asking.
commentary I've heard is we quite like driving around with that thing on the back.
There we go.
I'm just noticing. Sorry.
Not me. I mean,
Hold my breath here, Peter. Come on.
There was correspondence from Marion Maxwell as well as Liz Bell. I think it started with, they're two separate things. It's not the continuation of the same email, but we don't have Marion's listed in the resident correspondence.
oh, fine. Okay. Okay.
So you did respond to her.
I responded to Marion, yeah, but not to
so-
Liz Bell.
Yeah, so I think we need to note, however,
Okay,
for
so
the
just-
agenda, for the correspondence.
Yeah.
that
Can
it
do
has
the
been-
add-in, but then already responded.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you'll need we'll just do a quick motion on amending the correspondence list accordingly.
Yeah,
Thanks, it's been moved and second, please. And any discussion on that one? We'll know what the question is here. We're just going to amend the correspondence list to reflect the reality.
So it's
All in favour and opposed, that carries.
there you go. Well, without mentioning the topic, and let's say it's from Mr. Wyman. There's many issues here with this, but really it's the second to last paragraph that is the question that he has for us, which is, simplest answer would be to block off the gate. That wouldn't please the boaters. Best alternate, post some version of a private land restricted access sign from the village.
so I did go and investigate that aspect of it. Indeed, there's a gate there. At first I thought it was a gate to access the waterside property, the last one before the cul-de-sac, because the house is right there. But when you open the gate, there's a path that leads down to the bottom of the chute for Alberta Creek. And down there was kayaks stashed in the trees, and there was an old rowboat, and maybe something else, I forget. But I didn't see a bunch of trash. I didn't see any signs of abuse of the area, so to speak. So I don't know. I mean, it's not municipal land. It would be Crown land. And
Crown
I
is
don't-
in Modi.
Yeah, but I don't know that, I think putting a lock on it is just gonna result in people cutting it. And, so I don't favor that as an alternative. Yeah, also I didn't see any sign of fires or anything like that, which was good. So maybe just some signage that indicates, please respect, this area, and we can tweak the wording, whatever it needs to say, and no fires perhaps is be an important one. But I think that would be my suggestion for how to respond to that aspect of it.
Well, if I could just add the sort of the history of the area, it goes back to when the Route Torrent Channel was finished. There's a number of people had mooring buoys out there, and they got to the contractor doing the fence and got them to put a gate in it. So it was never officially supposed to be there, and they put a lock on that they each had a key to it, so they could access their boats. And they had their kayaks or dinghies on the slope and everything, so that could be what's happening still. But I understand from this letter, kayakers wanting to shoot the channel are also going in there and doing it. But so I think it's an awkward one. I think the residents still need their access to their mooring buoys. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But I'd love to see them stop doing the kayaks up the creek, but then I don't want to interfere with the ones with mooring buoys. So I don't know what we could do about it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to be done. It's just part of running a municipality. There's going to be transgressions, and it has to be addressed as best we can. I don't think putting a sign up is going to have one hill of beans difference. I will tell you what I have done externally is posted from the mayor of Lions Bay on all the YouTube videos. Do you know that internally we consider this hallowed ground because two kids got killed here? This is not a drainage ditch, it's not a sewer, it's a river, and the reason it's channelized is for safety because we lost 2 Lions Bears here. So no local would even contemplate kayaking down this chute. But you can go ahead, Mr. Dickhead. Oh, did I say that in a public meeting on tape? No adverse comment yet on that. And there are only about 6 or 8 videos out there. So that I don't know if that's going to. But there's all of a sudden the wow, man, it's like totally rad what you just did. That commentary is all stopped now as well. So no, I don't know, but I think as far as the letter is concerned, yeah, I think we certainly have to respond to Max.
And I think that would be
Or the
staff's,
Mayor's Club.
I think that would be staff's position to do that since they've been there. So my recommendation would be that staff assume this one, contact the writer and bounce off their ideas and go from there. Or phone
Well,
call.
I mean, it's certainly worth saying to him that we responded,
Yeah.
we meaning
Oh,
you,
we have to do
responded and
that,
went and had a
so,
look.
yeah.
And it seems that there's no egregious abuse there of fire and litter. If somebody ends up drowning there, well, that's.
Well, you did it yourself. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so thank you, Peter. I
So you've got that
I
one?
mentally saw your hand rise. On R5, which was Brunswick Beach, this has been dealt with by staff already, so that's correspondence.
Yeah, that's just a
So
correspondence
I put
thread.
forward the motion to receive the correspondence. Mary
Okay,
Beth?
thanks. It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favour, opposed, and carried. And on we go. It's 9:30 in our numbers. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Any new business? And any public questions and comments?
I have a couple.
Go for it, Doug.
My general ramblings. Things that I picked up during the meeting. The beach barrier, the beach question of boats going into where the float where the kids swim off. I think that's what we were talking about, and some technical problems with the law in terms of you putting signage up to tell people to keep the heck out of there. That's my general gist to what I understood. What I couldn't quite understand is you have one marking buoy down there now that sort of designates it as a swimming beach or something to that effect on the end.
Different beach.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Beach, sorry.
What we were actually talking about was Kelvin Grove Beach, which is a marine park.
Okay, my fault. Well, let me, anyways, what I'm about to say is, I think, pertinent to the other beach. I, on occasion, have seen boats come in to where the swimming raft is. And I don't think that's a good idea. It's particularly not a good idea that it's the end of a marina, that people that are, should they be zipping through there, when they're, particularly when the kids out there and people swimming beyond the raft, it's not a good idea. So, well, since I misunderstood what you were discussing, and I apologize for that, but what I couldn't understand is why we simply don't drop a couple of buoys and string some floats between them, which offers, it don't require any signage, but it offers a deterrent for boaters going in there. Okay, just for what it's worth. Think
Just
of-
like any lake swimming area, designated swimming area.
Almost every swimming area
Has
has
those-
some sort
those
of
little red
area
and white
of
floats.
that nature, just to keep people out with who shouldn't be there with vessels.
I don't think you can, I don't think you can impede navigation of water in that way without permission to do so.
Well, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna big argument, but if it was my decision, I wouldn't worry about somebody coming along and saying, we prefer you to compromise the safety of the public and abide by our regulations.
Doug,
I don't
the
think-
rules have changed, dude.
No,
Come on.
I mean, I'm not being argument, and I only have 2 minutes, but it's
I wish
just my
that-
opinion that you just simply did it. The likelihood of the navigational people coming along and telling you to remove it would be minimal, and if they did, cut the rope off and remove it. That's number one. So just think about it, that's just, the angle parking
See, Peter, it's
sign-
easy.
Well, I just tell you, it's affirmative action, just do it. That gets a Nike. They're in trouble, by the way, for telling people just.
Yeah, they got a little too affirmative.
Okay, so anyways, angle parking, I think you should actually, last year, if I remember correctly, people came early and parallel parked, which created all kinds of problems. So I think you should have a sign not only telling them it's possible to they have to angle park. I think it would solve some problems personally. 3, if I can find it.
Village update that.
So I'm going to jump, this was not actually discussed, but I'm going to bring it up if I may anyways. So we're discussing the possibility, we know from what we read that global warming appears to be the trend. Less water available over the summer appears to be the trend going forward, whether it's a year, 10 years, 20 years from now, who knows? And when that occurs, and also at the same time, we're thinking of perhaps having more people living in Lions Bay, that's what your projections say. We've talked about lots of things that might facilitate that happening. We haven't really done anything to this point to increase our water supply, particularly in the event that we run short. So I'm talking about emergency measures. And I'll bring something up that I've already brought up long before, and I'm gonna ask you, I'm just gonna bring it up. We have a water license on Alberta Creek. There's always water in Alberta Creek. I'm sure that somebody who has had to measure the width of the water, the depth of the water, and the flow of the water could probably tell you pretty accurately, an engineering type, for example, who could tell you pretty accurately how many gallons per day, per hour, per minute past any given point on that channel. So I have to assume that the amount of water above the channel would be at least equal to the amount of water where the channel starts. And what I think council should seriously consider is investigating beyond what's been done already, to see if that's not a viable, even if only in an emergency situation, option to provide the water necessary, so that the 5 hours to become 8 hours is no longer an issue. That the people who live here and trying to sell their house during a time when it says, by the way, we're out of water, no longer may be an issue. I don't think the cost would be prohibitive personally. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a construction guy, but I do have a little common sense, I think. The last thing I wanted to mention is the letter from Max, and my take is a little bit different. So historically, probably as a bit of a surprise to the village, whoever owned that house at some point in the past had applied to the provincial government or to whoever owns that land to have it, I don't know what the legal term is, but it's under their control.
So like homestead it?
No, not homestead it, they applied to have it appended
lease?
on for their use onto the end of their property, not to build on, not or anything, but to have control over. Okay, that was a long time ago, okay? So, my point being that if that's, and the current resident probably doesn't even know that, is unaware of the situation.
Because it didn't go through.
Oh, no, it did go through. So the village was quite surprised back in those days, because I think at the time, the village thought, that's not really a good thing. We would prefer to have that under the control of the village, so we could put a park bench down there, so people could walk the lake of Lions Bay, sit down there and look at the beautiful view. They can always stand in the middle of Max's access bridge, I understand. But, so anyways, my point being that the gate in question, for many years, worked just fine. It was locked. I don't think people broke the lock off. That's not to say they wouldn't do that today. They didn't do that in the past. Mind you, we didn't have kayaks coming down the sluiceway in the past either. But what has happened is that the fence is now in such terrible disrepair. It's falling apart, literally. It had no maintenance whatsoever that I can see from the day it was installed. Now, the fence itself is still serviceable, that you still can't get over, but it really does require to be fixed. And it compromises the ability of the gate to work because it's all askew. So, I don't agree that having a lock on there would be of no effect. I think that it would be effective. And I think that the people who actually require access over that must have been granted that access by the resident of the village who has control over the property. So he must have agreed to that somewhere along the line in order that people were provided with a key so they could get down to their moorings, that Fred referred to. My point being that if the current resident, in fact, one, has control over that land, two, should have a responsibility for maintaining the access to that land, and if they don't want to maintain the access to land, then I would suggest that the village of Lions Bay should make some inquiries as to who in fact has control over that land, and if in fact it's possible for Lions Bay to take control of that land, should do so.
Okay, that's yeah.
I mean, that's more of my 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank
Just
you
before
very
you go
much.
there, Doug. So when did that lease or control of the land take place?
Well, I guess in
Approximately?
the early 80s when we had the debris torn, there used to be a house there. Then there was an electrical engineer who built that house that is currently the house that's there. And if I'm not mistaken, I can't recall his name, although we could certainly find out. And so whatever year that house was built, which would have been, in the late 80s, I'm going to, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years after that, I'm guessing. He then applied to either the railroad, the provincial government, the highways, whoever has control over that land, to it to be attached to his property for the purpose of his controlling it. Not for, he didn't have the right to build or anything on it, anything of that nature. So I can't give you the specific date, and I'm not sure how you would go about finding that out, but I assume an initial start would be to go to land registry and just see what's lodged against that particular piece of property.
Why would anybody want to do that?
Why would he want to do
Yeah,
that?
why would he?
Well, because he wanted to, his lot's bigger, and he restricts public access to it. It makes made his property more valuable at the time, obviously. Plus, who wanted to have their house and have a public access next door to it? People could wander down there at their leisure.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why, in its day, it was a subject of discussion. How had it happened? Why had whoever granted that right not inquired with the village? Or in fact had inquired with the village and we simply dropped the ball? Who knows? But I'm just saying, it needs something done about it. And just one last little thing. So I walked up the Pride Trail the other day from the end of the parking lot above the main beach, at the end of Lions Bay Avenue. And Max's comment about using it as a bathroom facility, I find it particularly distressing because the beach has a bathroom. So I'm not sure if it's still there, but there were toilet tissues. I didn't investigate much beyond that, but there were toilet tissues, at least a dozen of them, in the first 10 feet when you step over the no post that's down there in the bush. So it seems to me that people, you know, maybe they're, I can't tell you why it's happening, I'm just telling you it is happening. So, for what it's worth, I think his comments are to some extent valid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, I suspect that there's food for thought for you there, Peter, so you'll probably be hearing for any more details, but other than that, yeah, so I guess in terms of Max's letter, I think I would like to see a recommendation on some of the points raised. So you'll respond to Max, Peter, as you reported to us, and then let's determine if there's, I mean, some of this is private property problems. I mean, the fact that, you know, people come across the property, well, that's not a municipal issue, but there might be some municipal impact here. So could you just think about that?
If you want to do more research on it, one of the fellows who owned a mooring buoy at the time, who was one of the negotiators between the resident that Doug's talking about and the Department of Highways, as it was called there, was a fellow on Lines or on Isleview named Hardy Goach.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Hardy Goach.
Hardy Goach?
Goetche.
I think he's the longest remaining Lions Bay resident.
It could well be.
Yeah,
Except for Bernice.
I have his,
except for Bernice.
I have his contact info.
Okay.
Yeah, he can give you a pretty clear background of the negotiations that went on. And
Yeah, he's actually a fairly valuable resource. Speaking of which, just apropos of nothing, but school service projects. I'm somewhat in discussion with the local schools, saying that when the seniors and grade 11s do their service project, I want Lions Bay kids to do their service in Lions Bay. And for example, the kind of thing that I had in mind was somebody would go and extract Harvey's information from it and put it in a wiki or on a report or something, so that it's not lost, so that they don't, you know, go and babysit in North Van. They do something useful to us. But that's going slow as well.
bring a few pencils, he talks about.
We know. Okay, good. So that was public comment. Thank you for that, Doug. Deirdre? No? One day you're going to say something and we're all going to be, oh, wow. Now she told us. Okay, so with that, it's a motion to close under, I have to read these things, 91 CFLJE and 92B. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Thank you. And a second? Thank you. It's seconded. All in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, we're returning at 11:01, the meeting having been duly extended in closed, as is reflected in the minutes of the closed meeting. If anybody wishes to do a freedom of information on those. No, you can't even do it. FOIs. I'm recording. I'm just messing with Peter. Just trying to make his blood run cold. One item to report out, and Peter, that is?
The council awarded contract to Urban Systems for $6,300 to do a water conservation plan in support of our grant
IPC.
applications.
All grant applications, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's an accurate reflection of what was discussed. Okay, thanks. That will appear in the minutes of the open meeting. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. And a second. All in favor, opposed, and carried.